I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well.
Hello.
I'm a double.
Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Jordan Yule with you guys on an amazing day. Boy, do we have a show for you. Epstein information everywhere. And we're gonna get to it a little bit later in the program. In the second hour, we believe that Anna's doing something, but he's gonna join us in the second hour to partly discuss this story. But guys, the information is bonkers. It's unbelievable. So Epstein connected to Trump for sure. Remember, Drop Site News also reporting about absolutely positively clear connection between Epstein and Mossad earlier. We're gonna get back to that again a little bit later in the program. And the reason I bring, there's a lot of reasons why I bring that up. Another thing that comes up is how different members of the press were working with Jeffrey Epstein to help him. That is so strange. That is incredibly strange. So hell of a day. Trump brings in the FBI director and the attorney general to try to convince US Congress people, Lauren Boebert in particular, to not release the Epstein files. What does the FBI director and the attorney general have to do with a congressional vote? That is so strange. So we're gonna get into all of that on tonight's show, so don't miss any of it. And then at 8 o'clock Eastern, an amazing thing, which I thought was gonna be the big thing today on the Young Turks. So Josh Turk and Nathan Sage are two progressive populists. They're running for the Iowa Senate race. And so we talked to both of them and really liked both of them. So they're gonna come on tonight, one after another, and we're asking your help in figuring out who we should back. So I know we've never done this. I don't know that anybody's ever done this. But for our members, and the reason we're doing it for paying members is because we don't want trolls, etc. We want people who are a core part of the community telling us who they liked better. So it's not gonna be a debate, it's gonna be a discussion, and we're gonna talk to them back to back, and then you guys vote. The vote's not 100% binding. But I want to know what you guys think because I'm undecided. So that's gonna happen at 8 o'clock Eastern, don't miss that. But we got so much news to get to. So Jordan, what are we starting with?
Well, Cenk, things are not looking good for the Graham Plattner campaign. And new polling shows that he may be in for a major defeat if he squares off against Susan Collins in the general election. And we've got more, but what are your 2 cents here?
Yeah, I don't believe the poll. So you're gonna read the poll, and then I'm gonna question the people who did the poll. I think they're bad guys, even though they're on our side theoretically. And then I want to have a real discussion with you on, forget staying in the race. Who do you think you support in the race, and I support in the race, and have a real discussion about it? Because I think that this stinks to high heaven. But tell us the facts, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay. Democratic group Emily's List has released new data gauging Maine voters' thoughts on Plattner in a head-to-head race against Republican Senator Susan Collins. Before testing a matchup between Plattner and Collins, the poll summarizes pro-Plattner messaging, including his military service and his promise to fight the billionaire class and make politics work for regular people, along with likely Republican attacks about the communist label and his comments about police. With that information, Collins leads Plattner 51% to 42%. That gap grew to 19 points after voters were provided with more quotes from Plattner's Reddit posts. And when voters were provided with a lengthy apology response, he only narrowed the gap by 5 points. Now, Emily's List has a goal of electing Democratic women, and they have endorsed Plattner's opponent, Janet Mills, in the primary. The most recent major poll on that primary, which was conducted before it was revealed that 20 years ago, Plattner got a tattoo resembling a symbol used by the Nazis, showed Plattner was up by 34 points. Another poll from a lesser-known pollster, SoCal Strategies, conducted during the week, Plattner's tattoo and Reddit history were made public and in the news, showed Mills ahead by 5 points. When Plattner's tattoo was mentioned to respondents in that poll, Miller's lead grew to 30 points. To make matters worse for Plattner's campaign, over the last few weeks, several top staff members from his campaign have left, including his campaign manager, political director, and finance director. Now that primary is June 9th, 2026. So Cenk, I guess the question is, of course, you have reservations about that Emily's List poll, but there is a lot of time here. Do you think he should stay in the race?
Yeah, definitely. All of his opponents are what make me support him more. So I'm gonna come back to Emily's List, which I have massive doubts and skepticism about. But first, look, I wanna give you guys context. If I thought there was a guy in the race who was gonna hurt our chances of winning, especially against Susan Collins, when we absolutely need to win the Senate, we need to win Congress back, and the guy is talking about how, oh yeah, the right-wing white voters in Maine are stupid or racist. I mean, you've heard the show for the last year, 2 years, etc. We've been telling you, don't do that. Don't do that. That's a really bad idea. Don't attack the voters. Instead, go after the politicians and make that distinction clear, etc. So if we thought he was a bad guy, or I mean, let me speak for myself, not we. If I thought he was a bad guy, then I would tell you, oh yeah, that's terrible and that would hurt him in the election, etc., etc. But I don't get the sense that he's a bad guy. I get the sense that he was frustrated. He said that stuff, and at this point, that doesn't back that at all. Now, there's two different things: whether he meant it and is problematic to begin with on all the different charges. Then the second thing is, even if he didn't mean it, or he meant it at a time, but that's because he was, going through PTSD or whatever that you've got. People grow, people mature, people evolve, right? But now it has the right position, but still you're worried that it might hurt his chances of winning and our chances of winning. Okay, so these are all legitimate questions, right? But at the same time, like if I thought, yeah, so from my perspective on those questions, I don't think it's necessarily gonna, I get that he's gonna do damage, right? But I'm not convinced that Mills is a better candidate. And I'm certainly not convinced that he meant that stuff and still means it secretly today. If I thought that, I would have no interest in him at all, okay? And the attack against the cops, we were all frustrated about cops back in the day when he was frustrated about cops. At this point, you know our stance, which is easy, which is we're against crime. That's not hard. And so if I thought this guy's soft on that, again, it wouldn't be my inclination to back him, right? But he's been running a very populist campaign, calling out the establishment, calling out the donors, calling out everybody he needs to call out, right? And all of a sudden, this giant vat of Oppo research is dumped in his lap, and they're like, ha, we got you, you're smeared, you're canceled, that's it. And Jordan, where my skepticism comes in on this poll is, all of a sudden, Emily's List, which I think is one of the worst organizations in politics, comes in and goes, oh, we did a poll. It shows he would be much worse than our candidate, who is totally backed by all corporate donors and the establishment. Oh, you have to trust us. We have your best intentions in mind. Here we are again, putting a giant hatchet in the back of a progressive or populist or outsider or anyone who wanting change. And that is the main role of Emily's List. I think the rest of it is a cover story, a total operation. I don't know what they've done to help women's rights. I've never heard them in any fight where they mattered at all. But where I have heard them 1,000 times, Jordan, is back when we were starting Just Democrats, and throughout all this entire time, before the crypto guys and before AIPAC, if a progressive was running, Emily's List was going to support the establishment candidate opposed to them in the primary, and then do everything they could to defeat progressives. So I'm not really that interested in a poll from Emily's List which I think has an excellent chance of being just utterly fake, period. That's my view. Okay, now I'm pretty harsh on it, obviously. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, some of what you said, I agree with. I think Emily's List has used gender politics in this country over the past couple decades as a wedge. They've used it as a cudgel. I mean, they really tried to weaponize it when Bernie was running to support the establishment. Totally with you there. Now, putting that whole poll aside, you know, if we want to put weight in that SoCal Strategies poll that also found that Plattner was behind, that's concerning. And I think we need to put ourselves in the minds of the average person, right? We think deeply about these issues. Most voters do not. Many vote, maybe many, we'll go with that. But when they hear that one of their potential candidates has a tattoo that resembles a Nazi symbol, that has, and they will strip, you know, Cenk, you ran for office, they will strip the context of his Reddit posts to make them seem even worse. And in the framing, in attack ads, and in the media, they'll continue to hammer these points that he said things that he now regrets online years ago. They're not going to be nuanced or understanding or forgiving or provide context for what he was in mentally, physically, professionally at those times. He's apologized for him. I think everyone should have a little bit of grace for that kind of stuff. But that's not how they're going to portray it in the media. And if he's going to be subject to these attacks for months, again, this primary is in June. What concerns me, not his policies, it's that voters will be subject to these distractions. And at the end of the day, he might either lose the primary or lose against Collins. That's a fickle state. We know this. Maine is a weird state to run in. It's, you know, somewhat reliably Democratic in presidential elections, but somehow Susan Collins has held on to that job. So my thought is, hey, you've got a ton of time to stand up a campaign. Find somebody without that baggage who will run on those same things and start building that up now, rather than just crossing our fingers and hope it's Plattner, and then hope he withstands that barrage of attack ads in the general.
Yeah, so I hear you on all that. Those are all reasonable points, but here's my pushback on all of that, okay? So first, again, real quick, because I don't want to get distracted by Emily's List, but we lost Roe v. Wade while Emily's List was fighting for women's rights. Where were you? Oh no, we sent out a bunch of fundraising emails. I'm sure you did, But you didn't win that fight. You didn't win any of the fights. But whenever there's an issue of identity politics, Emily's List is at the front of the line. No, you have to vote for Hillary. No, it doesn't matter that she's backed by local corporations. Shut up and vote for the woman, right? And there's other organizations, and their job is to say, shut up and vote for fill in the blank, X, Y, Z, different groups, okay? And their job, and they are funded by the establishment to destroy progressives. So they use identity politics in the most grotesque way to target anyone outside the system. So here comes a brother who is so firmly and aggressively outside the system and fighting for the average guy, and all of a sudden here comes all the worst people in Washington attacking him in such a voracious way that it makes me want to go, all right, I'm going to quadruple down on Graham Plattner. Okay, and now you say, okay, well, Cenk, don't do that out of spite. We need to win the race. Of course. So Jordan, let me make the case for why I think that he's the better candidate. Okay, number one, you've got what I'm gonna call the Mamdani phenomenon. So Mamdani was attacked just as viciously as Plattner is. Now, they didn't have as much material on him. All they had on him was, he's Muslim and he's a communist. But, I mean, Mamdani's an actual socialist, whereas Plattner is neither a communist nor a Nazi, right? So there's actually no substance behind it. Oh, so they're gonna attack him that way. So what, they attack Mamdani that way. So in reality, that actually helped Mamdani. Why did it help Mamdani? Even though mainstream media hit him with a nuke, they threw every dirty trick on him. They went and searched for he was in a rap song, he was this, he was that. He once didn't help a grandmother across the street he wasn't even aware of. Yeah, they nuked him and he survived and he won. It made him stronger. Why? Because they accidentally put a spotlight on the race. And once you put a spotlight on the race and people start paying attention, our policies and our style, again, left-wing populists, is so much more popular than anything else in the country. So the minute there's a spotlight on the race, people go, oh, really? You guys are fighting against the establishment? Oh, you guys hate the corruption? You guys hate the wars? You guys are trying to fight for higher wages, lower drug prices, etc. Wait, I came to hate you, all of a sudden I love you, right? And so that spotlight helped Mamdani, didn't hurt him. And if they nuked him twice, it would have helped him twice as much. So I'm not sure that this is gonna hurt him at all. Number two, there's cancel culture blowback, okay? So especially with independent voters, but maybe even some right-wing voters. When you go to them and you go, okay, Susan Collins is a beautiful member of the establishment. She loves all of her corporate donors, loves money in politics, and loves Israel. And so you should all bow your head to Susan Collins, all of you independents and right-wing voters. And the other guy he should be canceled. It looks like he's fighting for you guys, but the establishment hates him. And he was a Nazi on the right, and he was a communist on the left, and he hates cops, and he hates people who hate cops, and he hates everyone, and you should hate him. I think a lot of people are gonna go, really? Tell me more about this guy, because now I'm kind of interested. Because once the bad guys and the evil forces come against someone and you bring the spotlight, people start to look into it and go, oh, maybe that guy's actually looking out for us, and that's why everybody's throwing dirt on him. And so, and the last part of it, Jordan, is I don't think Mills is gonna win. Maine is a graveyard for corporate Democrats. How many corporate Democrats have we run against Susan Collins? And every time morons like Chuck Schumer and literally everyone in mainstream media who are all biased, corrupt, and dumb as a brick come in and go, oh, support the corporate candidate, they'll beat Susan Collins. We're gonna win Republicans in the suburbs. We've outraised them. We have all this corporate cash and people in Maine love it, and we're gonna beat Susan Collins. And I've seen that movie 200 times, and they've never beaten her. So if Chuck Schumer, and I'm not just putting it on him, but the entire establishment comes and tells me to back Mills, well, then I think, well, that's a near guaranteed loss. So why don't I try something else? Now, to your point, okay, let's just find a rando in Maine now and restart an entire campaign and have that person be left-wing populist. But what difference does it make, Jordan? Then they're gonna find dirt on him. They're gonna be like, oh, did you know in 1987, he bought groceries from the checkout clerk that was white and not Asian. So he's a racist, the guy's Asian, or whatever nonsense they're gonna make up about that guy. There isn't a single populist that they won't dig up dirt on. So what's the difference?
Well, I think it's the severity of what they dig up. And to go to your Mamdani point, the attacks that they levied against him, we all just laughed them off because they were ridiculous. Oh, he tried to launch a rap career. Like, who cares? You know, like obviously the baseless anti-Semitic stuff that we saw from the pro-Israel lobby didn't resonate because people could just see that he never said that. That's why all of the framing was, why won't you denounce this specific phrase? Well, he's never said it. Why are you asking him? People saw through that. Here, it's him. It's him doing it. It's him saying these things. It's him with the tattoo. That's tough. And there's also a concern that this might just be the start. Like this, again, this primary is in June. I don't think campaigns typically dump all of their oppo right away. So I think there's a concern from some people that it may continue to mount and snowball and more will come. Look, Cenk, the population of Maine is 1.4 million. It had over 800,000 people vote in the presidential election in 2024. I don't think it's necessarily plucking a rando. There's indivisible groups, there's grassroots community groups. Our Revolution still exists in some pockets of the country. You know, maybe there's a progressive elected official in a city or in the state legislature. It's not that hard to find somebody who could run, who knows, and doesn't have, like, again, a tattoo or had a tattoo that resembles a Nazi symbol or has said the things that he said. I'm not saying that people can't change or that he makes mistakes. I do think on the tattoo thing, it was an instance of a dumb troop who just picked out a symbol because he thought it looked cool. Like, I'm willing to have some grace there, but I think in the average mind of a voter, they're going to be off put by that. And the initial polling between Plattner and Collins in a general, if we are to believe that, was 6 or 7 points, which is about the difference in the presidential election in 2024. So look, if you, and one other thing that he said, he was criticizing rural people in Maine as stupid. That is going to come, I think that might even be the most damaging thing about everything, because then you're insulting the voters. That's hard to overcome. So look, I don't really have a strong affinity for this guy. Like, I think his platform is good, and we should see more platforms like that in politics across the country. But I'm sure there's at least one other person in Maine who doesn't have that baggage and also shares those ideals. There's likely many, because we know those views are popular. So all I'm saying is, because we have like 7 months until this primary, that's a lot of time. Like, look, people were saying a new campaign should be stood up in 3 months instead of Kamala Harris. If people were willing to make the argument, looking at you, that within 3 months you can stand up a presidential campaign, you can have 7 months to stand up a Senate race.
Yeah, it's super theoretical. I'm not gonna, the guy was kicking ass until all this cancerous, toxic dirt. So, and I don't want to reward the dirt. I hate it. So let's, last thing, guys. Let's break down the two things that you said there, Jordan. On the tattoo, every time we mention it, I feel like we get independent voters backing him. And again, maybe even some right wingers. Not because they're Nazis, right? But because it's so obvious they're trying to cancel. It, like, you're saying, like, everybody's saying he's way too left wing. He's calling the right wing stupid and racist. So that's why he's a right wing Nazi. That makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. And the more people hear that, the more they're gonna think this is cancel culture BS. How do I spell his name? How do I get on board with, can I volunteer for this guy? Okay, so not because of the tattoo, but because of the cancel culture BS surrounding the tattoo. Okay, now the second thing is, wait. Now, I agree with you, Jordan, that calling the voters stupid, whether the right-wing Republican or not, or rural voters, is terrible. We've been saying that for a long time here on TYT, right? So, but wait a minute. We're being told by the establishment that that's a terrible thing and it automatically disqualifies you. Hasn't Jasmine Crockett called white right-wing voters stupid and racist approximately 200 times?
Well, no, the establishment isn't saying that. That was in his Reddit history. That'll likely emerge in attack ads. I mean, think about the attack ads. So should we not run Jasmine Crockett because she's done, because she's said the same things as that we think is the most damaging for Plattner? No, I think it's different when you're running statewide and you need those rural votes versus a metropolitan area in Dallas. It's a totally different voter base.
That's totally fair. Okay, and a good point by Jordan. But at the same time, the same people who love Jasmine Crockett are telling me that those are unacceptable things to say. Well, apparently they became unacceptable 2 days ago, because before that was identity politics that the establishment loved. I'm not trying to criticize Jasmine Crockett. I'm just telling you that's a thing that a lot of Democrats have said. Tons and tons and tons of Democrats have said, and we were the ones fighting against it, and now all of a sudden they claim, oh, insulting the right-wing voters is the worst thing you could do. Really, you guys think that? Well, I'm glad you've surrendered to us, and that I want apologies from everyone in the establishment and every left-wing show and everyone out on the planet saying the Young Turks are right. You shouldn't insult the voters. When am I gonna get that? Oh, you are not gonna get that, because it isn't about that. It's about making sure that they put a hatchet in this guy's back. And yeah, no, it's for me, Jordan, undeniable hatchet job. And the more you reward hatchet jobs, the more hatchet jobs you'll get. So I'm thinking of signing up to help him.
I knew we would have a good conversation on this topic.
All right, there you go, mission accomplished. All right, we got to take a break. A lot more to come, including MAGA base turning on Trump again. What's it about? We'll tell you when we come back.
It's called Oppo Research.
Al-Qaeda.
I'm a double.
All right, guys, I'm going to read all these blinds, so wish us luck. Let's see how it turns out. Starting at tyt.com, members, Don Dada Dragon says, Trump's distractions are about to get huge. Don't fall for the bait. Yeah, well, there'll be a lot of distractions, but no, we breached the wall. He's not going to be able to contain the Epstein story. We're going to get to that in a little bit in the program. Funkin' for Fun says, F Emily's List. Theater Goddess says, let's face it, there is still going to be people buying memberships to try and troll us by voting in the poll, but they're really trolling themselves by supporting a group they hate watch. This brings me joy. Yeah, I could live with that. If a couple of trolls sign up to vote in the Turk Sage poll we're going to have tonight. Two great left-wing populist candidates in the Iowa Senate seat. Almost never happens. Literally can't remember a single other instant of it happening in a Senate race. They're going to be on tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. Don't miss it. If you're a paying member, which all of you are, if you're almost all of you are during this break, you get to vote on it and give us your advice and counsel. Progressive Veteran says, as an Iowan, I'm excited for the sit-down conversations. Thank you, TYT. Thank you, I appreciate it. Don't Shoot, I'm the Goalkeeper says, I would not want a former Blackwater employee who worked at Abu Ghraib with a freaking Nazi tattoo representing progressives. Not sorry about that for a second. Okay, that's a legitimate opinion, I get it. And so, yes, he did work there, and that's another point of concern. So it's a fair conversation, guys. Soyram says, I'm voting for Plattner. It's the only hope I have. That's also fair. I mean, but Don't Shoot, I'm the Goalkeeper. Like, it's gotten to a point where we're so desperate for any real person that isn't absolutely and utterly controlled by the establishment that even the resume you read, people go, yeah, sign me up, man. I can't stand it anymore. So Mills is not the answer. Mills is never going to vote with you guys. Never, ever, ever. She has sworn allegiance to her donors and she will never waver from that. So she's a totally and utterly useless vote. I mean, if Jordan's right and some magical person pops up out of Maine and all of a sudden gets the same populist thing, okay. But don't be surprised when they dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and find out, oh, he hasn't been perfect either. And look at that, he's against Israel, boo! Okay, Nerd Ferguson says, I was born and raised in Iowa, I don't vote there, but my 70-year-old progressive, as hell parents do. Whoever wins this interview, in my mind, between the candidates will get 2 Iowa votes because I will do all I can to encourage my parents to vote for my fave. All right, that's good. I love that you guys are active about it. That's awesome. Progressive 1776 says, you guys need to interview Mark Scheffler. He's challenging Tony Weed in Wisconsin's 8th congressional district and is a progressive. We're working on a lot of those. Thank you for the suggestion. Trisha Lelanosa says, Cenk, any chance you are biased for Plattner? Because of your own electoral experience at this point, I only see him as the lesser of 3 evils. Yeah, I'm biased and I'm also informed by my experience, but not just my experience, literally every outsider progressive populist that has ever run. All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Jordan with you guys. Also, Dav Mill and CDN Norse Dog Dad. Thank you for gifting a membership again. Jordan, what's next?
Take a look at this.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
Donald Trump is once again facing the wrath of his own MAGA base for essentially claiming that American workers are not sufficiently talented. And we're going to hear more from some of those outraged right-wingers soon. But first, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Here's what I love, that finally Trump's voters are beginning to see the Trump that we all know, which is an idiot who is part of the elites and the establishment and will just say stupid stuff right off the top of his head. Before they never caught him, I'll tell you why they're catching him now. And even Laura Ingraham caught him, as you're about to see.
Now, during this unusually contentious interview with Laura Ingraham, Donald Trump bragged about how fabulously the economy is doing in his eyes. in large part thanks to his tariff policies. And that's when Laura Ingraham brought up H-1B visas, which allow skilled foreign workers to come to the United States temporarily, and Trump completely stepped in it. Take a look.
I'm now at almost $18 trillion in 9 months. That's the biggest in the history of the world. China's never done it, never done anywhere near that. And all that money is coming in, it's investment. It's building auto plants, it's building AI plants. So by the way, we're leading China by a lot on AI. We have potentially the greatest, already it is, but we have, when these things open up, there's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
And does that mean
the Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people here.
No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Now, the H-1B visa debate caused a stir early in Trump's term when you had his tech oligarch friends like Elon Musk arguing that there should be more H-1B visas, arguing in favor of them, but then his MAGA OGs like Steve Bannon arguing against them. By the way, Musk's Tesla allegedly laid off thousands of their skilled American workers in 2024 and replaced them with cheaper foreign workers using H-1B visas. Trump tried to placate his MAGA base by signing an executive order that instituted a $100,000 fee for companies to obtain the visas back in September. But now he's thoroughly enraged them again by insulting American workers. Marjorie Taylor Greene took issue with his comments, writing on X, I believe in the American people. I'm one of you. I believe you are good, talented, creative, intelligent, hardworking, and want to achieve. I'm solidly against you being replaced by foreign labor like with H-1Bs. I am solidly against allowing foreign students into our colleges and universities like 600,000 Chinese students just to financially prop them up. If they fail, they fail. The system in place isn't helping our young people anyways. She's referring to another moment in the interview there where Laura Ingraham challenged Trump's plan to bring thousands of Chinese students into the country. He defended the policy and said, don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. But based on the responses from dozens of other MAGA figures, I'm not so sure that's true. Anthony Sabatini, a Republican politician from Florida, said, this is insane. We are going to lose the midterms so badly. We've never seen an administration crash and burn in its first year so badly for no reason other than to appease donors and special interests. Trump has surrounded himself with the worst people. Tim Pool, right-wing podcaster, added, don't worry, Trump is bringing in more H-1Bs to make sure our young people are blanked. Conservative activist Mike Cernovich said Trump broke everyone's heart with this line about the American workforce and H-1Bs. He also accused Trump of only listening to donors, which Candace Owens co-signed. And on his show today, Steve Bannon said the H-1B program is indentured servitude to compete against Americans and take jobs for lower wages. As usual, now the rest of Trump's cabinet is trying to do some damage control. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent insisting that foreign workers are just a temporary fix. Take a look.
I think the president's vision here is to bring in overseas workers where these jobs went.
Who have skills.
Who have the skills, 3, 5, 7 years to train the US workers, then they can go home, the US workers fully take over.
So do you understand the concern that people have? Hey, an American can have that job, why you give it to a guy from India?
But an American can't have that job
so
because
it's specific skills.
Because we haven't built ships in the US for years. We haven't built semiconductors. So this idea of overseas partners coming in, teaching American workers, then returning home, that's a home run.
Cenk, what do you make of this?
Yeah, it's so complicated. So Trump's reaction is not complicated. I'll come back to that. but the H-1B visa issue is complicated. Why? It definitely has a use. It definitely has a value. But has it been abused? Yes. So is it only used for foreigners to come in, teach Americans a skill set and then leave? No way, they're totally making that up. That's actually a rare instance, right? Have I seen, and I'm not sure that it was in regards to H-1B visas, but a similar topic where a friend of mine taught his replacements that were coming in from India how to do their jobs. And then those replacements took the jobs. And he didn't have a choice. They were gonna be let go and their incentives, etc. Somebody was gonna teach them anyway. My point is, it usually works in reverse. They don't usually have cheap labor teach more expensive labor. They usually have expensive labor teach cheaper labor and then use cheaper labor for the rest of the time, right? So that don't get tricked by Scott Bessent and his nonsense propaganda. Or anything he ever says, okay? So, all right, now, but at the same time, there are some places where H-1B visas definitely make sense. I would not be in the camp of, no, well, you gotta ban these foreigners and they're of no value to us at all and we don't need any stinking foreigners around here. No, there's plenty of jobs where, yes, unfortunately, that only people from other countries, because of how specific the job is or because of other factors, can do those jobs. And so I wouldn't want to foreclose that completely. On the other hand, have H-1B visas been abused to bring in less expensive labor? Yeah, of course they have. So if you wanted to reform it in a smart way, you bring people into the room, figure out, hey, how do we put guardrails around it, etc. I think it makes sense. If you want to get rid of it, I'm not in favor of that. Now, is Donald Trump talking about reform? Is he talking about crafting anything in an intelligent way? Of course not, right? He comes in with a meat cleaver usually, but on this side, he's saying, and his meat cleaver went into our backs. So while you're defending H-1B visas, you don't have to say stupid crap like the American people are not talented enough. No, I mean, God, we have no one in government that ever represents us, right? Because if we had a government that cared about the average American, you would then actually try to figure out, hey, how can we incentivize business, individuals, etc., to be able to fill those jobs, those valuable jobs, with American citizens? And then you would have an action plan for that. And then you would have a plan for, yes, but from time to time we have to use H-1B visas here, but they really should be of limited scale and they should be for a specific purpose, and then work together holistically to make that happen and to empower the American people who are plenty talented enough. We got 330 million people in this country, and we built the most amazing things in the history of the world. Are we talented enough? Of course we're talented enough. And so, but Trump, this is what we've been trying to tell the right wing all along, Jordan. He's the establishment. He's just in a different sheep's clothing, right? Oh yeah, I am a populist, and then he loves being an elitist and building golden ballrooms and etc. And everything he's ever done is supported his donors. Oh, I'm gonna help Miriam Adelson with Israel. I'm gonna help ExxonMobil with oil. I'm gonna help the defense contractors with a needless war in Venezuela. And now all of a sudden, companies, corporations, and we're under corporate rule, want more H-1B visas. And he's like, yeah, Americans aren't talented. I need to bring in the foreigners who are talented. What in the world happened to America first? So, no, I don't think either side is right if they're going to black and white on this issue, which actually requires nuance. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I am with you 100%. I think there's a middle ground here that is the best way forward, right? I think H-1Bs bringing in people from around the world to share insight, experience, intelligence will lead to greater advancement. That's a great thing that should be celebrated. Like, you have people from all around the world who want to come here, work at your companies, study at your universities, and share their findings. That's great. We should celebrate that. Where you lose me is when companies try to exploit that by paying people lower wages. There should be a requirement, a provision, legislation, something. If you are paying somebody, if you are bringing in somebody on an H-1B visa to work, you have to pay them the exact same salary as their peer group at the company. And if you don't have a peer, another company, a rival, or the competitive market rate. The idea that you can bring people in and pay them less is bogus. It doesn't fly with me. So I'm sympathetic to the indentured servitude thing, also because they're at risk of losing it if they try to fight back or ask for more. It's a very vulnerable position for people with those visas, especially now. But across the board, we're seeing this isolationist, protectionist policy that I don't like. I don't want to live in that America. I want people from all over the world to come here to share their experiences, their traditions, their knowledge, that makes America a unique place that should be celebrated. But unfortunately, there's a part of the MAGA base and the broader right-wing movement that only wants, the white, typical Christian American, and that's it. Everybody else get out. I don't like that. I mean, we live in Los Angeles. What is so great about the city is how, wildly different each neighborhood can be. You get different cultures, languages, experiences. I like that. And if they want this, sterile, homogenous community, you could find that in rural America, fine. But don't try to define the rest of America, or don't try to make the rest of the country conform to what you want it to be. If you don't like diversity, that's a you problem. Don't make it ours. So I'm with you. There is on H-1B specifically, there is a middle ground on these two competing arguments on the right. I think we should fight for it. And it is interesting to see the MAGA base fight back against Trump and criticize him.
Yeah, and I'll just remind people that, and this cuts in both directions, Elon Musk came in on an H-1B visa. He had a student visa first and then converted it to an H-1B visa, otherwise he couldn't have stayed. So, there's a lot of arguments to be made about Elon Musk, but did he add to the US economy? Well, he certainly did, right? And it has a lot of jobs been created at Tesla, SpaceX, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, of course they have. So no matter what you think about Elon Musk's politics, and this was again confusing because most of the right is on Elon Musk's side, but they're also against H-1B visas. So just acknowledge the realities of what H-1B has brought us, both good and bad. And I feel like the two sides never acknowledge, the realities of the other side. Has it been abused? Definitely. Do we have enough people here that are super talented and we could direct in towards the future economy? Yes, definitely. But do we need folks from time to time on H-1B visas? I think so. And so I think that we could do that nuance and get it right, which is the balancing act that we always need. The extremes are usually not the right answer. Okay. We got to take another break here. All right, when we come back, we've got a lot more to bring you guys, and including, of course, the giant news about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. We'll be right back.
Randy Arguay.
All right, let's go to Super Chat. The Cuckoo's Nest said, you said it. We had a female Justice Democrat in 2018 who was for minimum wage increase, among other populist issues. Emily's List entered a female corporate Democrat against minimum wage increase, and corporate Democrat won. Minimum wage affects women more than men. Yeah, it does. But in my experience, Emily List hasn't cared about that at all. All they care about is identity politics in favor of corporate candidates. Dave Mill writes in, I don't agree with TYT on a lot of issues, strongly opposed positions on some, but honest on their positions and not as dismissive of other views as before. Well, thank you for noticing that, brother, and we appreciate it. And look, the main thing you should ask of any show that you watch is honesty. Because if they have an agenda and they're not telling you, and they're secretly backing this, corporation or that party or that, government, then you're just listening to propaganda, right? I'd rather watch an honest show that I disagreed with than a dishonest show that I agreed with. I'm not gonna get anything out of the dishonest show other than propaganda, because that's the whole point of that show. And I'm not interested in propaganda. And there's nothing wrong with backing a Democrat or a Republican as long as you're honest about it and you're transparent about it. That's the number one problem with corporate media. They're not transparent. They love crooked, dirty corporate politicians. Those are their main clients. They fund tons of ads in mainstream media. It's one of their top revenue sources. And they lie to you about it. And they pretend that they're objective and that they're the only ones who are objective. And then they bury every outsider from the left and the right and always back the worst, most corrupt politicians. All right, you know how I feel about that. 0083 writes in, the establishment is always going to come after anyone that is outside of the system. What is wrong with standing and fighting the person who's fighting for the ordinary people or fighting for that person? So look, we had that debate and clearly you're on that side of it as I am. So let's see how it plays out. David Rodriguez says, in Cenk's defense, Jay Jones, the new attorney general in Virginia, said some pretty messed up things about his opponent and his kids, but he won by a larger margin than Kamala Harris did. That's right, that's because Kamala Harris was a corporate candidate and people don't want corporate plastic robot candidates. But the Democratic Party's never going to understand that until we have a new leader in 2028. Zaria Surnakasha Devi writes in, my partner and I are listening today from Iowa City, Iowa. I love it. Make sure you're here at 8 o'clock Eastern. Two populist left-wing candidates for that Senate seat. I think one of them is going to win. Let's figure, maybe you guys are gonna pick the one who's gonna win. So that's tonight, paying members vote on TYT.com. LL Taco Dragon says, awesome debate. Any show with Jordan on it is a banger. Here, here. Micah Catalano says, I mean, I live in Ohio and I adore Nina Turner, but if she had a Nazi tattoo, she really regret it, but not enough to get it removed. I wouldn't have voted for her either. I hear you, but he didn't know it was a Nazi tattoo. So, or maybe you have Nazi socks on, but you don't know it. Are you guilty forever? I don't know, because these are just hatchet things that are invented, so I'm frustrated. All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys, but also Adam Allen, Andrew Tate, no, not that one. And as I said earlier, Dav Melanie wrote a super chat in as well. Atrocious 00s, thank you for sending in a Young Turks membership on YouTube. And Melody Loves Music, thank you for sending in 5. We appreciate all you guys. We love doing this show with you guys. All right, I'm gonna tell you about one of our partners real quick and then we'll get back to the news. Noble Mobile is a new company that provides cell service for you guys. I switched to it, it took about 5 minutes, saving me a ton of money. You only pay $50 a month, plus if you don't use all your data, they give you money back at the end of the month. So please do yourself a favor. People are saving on average around $500 to $1,000 a year by switching. You don't have to switch your phone, nothing switches, there's no SIM card. Easy peasy, okay? Go save some money. I changed and absolutely nothing about my phone has changed except the bill, which is much, much lower. Go.tyt.com/switch, go.tyt.com/switch. All right, Jordan, what's next?
Take a look at this.
This is the discussion I used to have with Elon all the time. He'd come in the West Wing. He won all these, guarantees on the button. I said, dude, you don't understand. You're asking people that make $42,000 a year to essentially get all these tax breaks.
Steve Bannon is once again feuding with Elon Musk. Specifically, Bannon was hammering Musk for demanding that the Trump administration not touch electric vehicle tax subsidies, which conveniently would have helped Americans buy Teslas. Cenk, what are your 2 cents here?
I love this civil war. And whose side am I gonna be on? You're gonna see on in a second. I think this one is uncomplicated, though gut-wrenching, where who I have to back on this one. Go ahead.
Now, before Bannon started his tirade against Musk, he was discussing a recent development in the world of artificial intelligence. Last week, OpenAI's CFO, Sarah Frier, startled investors when she suggested that in order to finance AI computing chips, OpenAI could or should get government backing. Here's that clip.
And so this is where we're looking for an ecosystem of banks, private equity, maybe even governmental, the ways governments can come to bear.
Meaning like a federal subsidy or something?
Meaning like just first of all, the backstop, the guarantee that allows the financing to happen. That can really drop the cost of the financing, but also increase the loan to value, so the amount of debt that you can take on top of an equity portion for
some federal backstop for chip investment.
Exactly, and I think we're seeing that. I think the US government in particular has been incredibly forward-leaning, has really understood that AI is almost a national strategic asset.
Now that sparked immediate backlash, but Frier and OpenAI CEO Sam Altman have since walked back those comments, but the damage was done. Now here is Bannon's response to that segment. Take a look.
They're going to sit there and go, because this is a national security situation against the Chinese Communist Party, because lo and behold, we can't let them win the AI race, that we're going to need government support, just like the defense industry needs government support. We need government support now to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, not simply on the data centers, but to power the data centers. And of course, the leaders of the climate change movement, all these progressives in the tech area, the tech bros, the oligarchs, have now all got old-time religion, and you can burn anything, do anything, just as long as they get power. No one has taken the time to walk the American people through this. This has to stop. It has to stop. We kind of need a presentation on exactly what this is going. You don't want any regulation. It takes more. You have more regulation on a nail salon on Capitol Hill than you have on the entire, a technology that could end the world.
Bannon went on to explain why tech oligarchs are turning young Americans away from capitalism. Take a look.
And then we got to talk about the economics of it. If the basic schmendricks are going to be the guarantor, and now they're talking about loans. If you either guarantor or loan, that means U.S. taxpayer is in the deal. If you're in the deal, then you got to get a piece of the ups. Right now, they're treating you like a fool. They're just running around. The David Sachs of the world just running around. Elon Musk running around. They're going to create trillions here, billions there, hundreds of billions. Hey, that's all fine. Every private equity, every management team, of course you want the suckers to come in. The people who don't know anything, right? To socialize the risk. Because remember, I said all of this is about risk mitigation, to socialize the risk. And you guys keep all the upside. That has to stop. This is why young people don't believe in capitalism. Because you know what? That is not capitalism. That's corporatism.
Cenk, what do you make of this?
They're watching the show. Come on, keep it real. I mean, that's word for word what I say, right? So corporatism, nobody even used that word until I'm turning into Trump. No one used the word corporatism. But seriously, like you guys have heard me talk about corporatism for years now. All of a sudden, everybody's talking about corporatism. Okay, good, God bless. I love the zeal of the converted and everybody coming in our direction. But look at that, that's populist left and populist right, totally agreeing. And yes, it makes me uncomfortable to agree with Steve Bannon because they're other things that he believes in the populist right that I do not believe in at all, right? But when it comes to economic issues, here, let's break it down. So it's not just that he said the word corporatism, who cares, great, wonderful, right? And it's a word that exists. It's just getting more usage now, and I'm glad it's getting more usage because it perfectly describes, and that's why I've been using it for such a long time, what we're in right now. We're not in capitalism. Corporatism is corporate rule, and it hates capitalism because it wants to limit competition. It wants to limit free markets. And what it does is it captures the government. That's why it's also called crony capitalism. It's not capitalism, it's the enemy of capitalism. So now, I've told you that 100 times. I wrote it in my book, Justice is Coming, you can see it. Number two, then finally, some folks in the right wing are going, hey, wait a minute. This sounds like socializing the risks. Yes, that's what we've been saying forever. That one, Naomi Klein is brilliant on it. She's written books on it. What corporatists do is they have socialism for the cost and capitalism for the profits, right? Well, that's not how capitalism works. No, capitalism is you deal with your own costs and revenue, and you make your business work. No, and right now, I mean, I can give you 1,000 examples as I have over the decades here, as we've been telling you guys. No, they're robbing us blind. They're dumping all their costs onto us. Look at this. Now the AI guys need a lot of energy to power their companies. All right, well, great, go get the energy. That's part of your business model, that's part of your cost. They're like, well, we don't want to pay the cost. We want the average American to pay the cost. Which leads us to point number 3 of agreement, which is, wait a minute, so when are we getting equity in your company? And if you watch the Young Turks, you've heard me say that for year after year after year, right? And Anna as well. So when we do the research for the drug companies through our universities, why aren't we getting money back for that? If a private company pays for the research of drug companies, they are going to get equity in that drug company. And if that drug company does really well, then they'll do really well and they'll get their money back and then some, right? But when the American taxpayer pays for it, they're like, shut up, that's it. You served your role as the piggy bank. You get nothing. Our beloved corporate donors. Oh, oops, did I mention they're donors of the politicians? And by the way, yes, of Republican and Democratic politicians. So, and again, it's not just about AI or just the drug companies. Almost every industry is using this to rob the American people blind. And I'm not even getting at the subsidies. I'm just talking about the bailouts and dumping their costs on us. Then you layer on the subsidies, right? Let alone the bailouts. Okay, so we bail out all the big banks. Why didn't we get equity? If a private company had given them the amount of money the US taxpayers gave the banks back in 2008, we would have owned all the banks. They had no leverage at all. We would have gotten minimum 90% of their equity. Why didn't we at least get 10%? So we can now have a piece of their record-breaking profits. Because no, you pay the costs because they bribed all of our politicians. And look at that. And here I'm gonna give some interesting credit to, I'm already uncomfortable enough with the credit I'm giving to Bannon, but to Trump a little bit too, right? Because Elon Musk, according to Bannon's description, if it's to be believed, walks in and he's the largest donor, even more so than Miriam. I forget, between him and Miriam Adelson, it was close. They were in the top 3 together. And some random conservative dude, heir, who's like, "I'll protect my money, lower taxes," right? Anyway, Elon walks in, one of the top 3 donors, and he's like, "Okay, now here's the subsidies I want back from the American people. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. I already bribed you. I already gave you all this money. I gave you $250 million and then some. So now you give me $250 billion or $2.5 trillion in these subsidies." I mean, brazen. So the credit to Trump is apparently he didn't immediately give it to him, and that pissed off Elon, and now we're in this kind of cold war between Elon and Bannon and Trump and all these different guys. So credit where credit is due, but although he did give Miriam Adelson everything she wanted, and he did give all the oil companies everything they wanted, and all the drug companies everything they wanted, I don't know, maybe it would have just taken longer to give Elon what he wanted, but Elon definitely apparently wanted it. And so it wasn't like, oh, I love the American people, I'm giving all this money to Trump just because I care about America first. And remember the H-1B visas, give them all to me, give me all the subsidies, give me all the money, and now I want a backstop. Now, finally, Jordan, to the particular point here about the federal backstop. They literally walked it back, as you said. And they said, well, I used the word backstop, but I think that's where the confusion comes in, and I'm not sure that that's really what I meant. No, we just saw the tape. She said, do you mean a federal backstop? And the person from the AI company said, exactly. No, she meant it. There's no, and then she explained it. It's a guarantee. When the US government, so here, I'll give you an example, and we'll use TYT as the example, okay? If the government weirdly, magically decided, you know what, any loan that TYT gets as a media company, we're gonna guarantee it. That would be a monumental advantage. Okay, why? Then you go to a bank, you go, it's backed by the federal government. You have literally nothing to lose. So instead of charging me 10%, 5%, whatever you're gonna charge me 1% or 2%, because it's literally guaranteed. It's free money, right? So then you get a much lower interest rate. Your costs are much lower because you don't have to pay more interest. Okay, and then on top of that, I go, hey, you know what? I don't want to borrow 10 million anymore. Now I want to borrow 100 million because it's guaranteed. They go, well, it's guaranteed. So all of a sudden you have extra leverage and you could borrow all that money. So those are all the advantages that the AI companies want that no other company gets. Unless again, they're among the other companies that have also bribed the US government, right? So that is not the free market. That's the exact opposite of the free market. That's saying I'm going to pick that winner and I'm not going to do it based on whether they're better, they're good at competition, they're good in the free market. I'm going to pick them based on the fact that they gave me a bribe, and now I'm going to take not my money, but your money, American taxpayers, and I'm going to pay back that bribe 1,000-fold, because it's not my money, it's the suckers at home that believe in this gross government, right? And that's how this game is played. But the good news, don't lose track of the good news. Holy cow, right-wing populists and left-wing populists agree and are now pushing back together. No. Let me see your equity. You want subsidies? You want backstops? You want all that? Let's do a deal. I went to Wharton, I'll do that deal. I'll take 80% of your company before you know what the hell hit you, okay? And I'll take it not for me, but for the American taxpayer. You still want it? You still want it? Oh no, but those are my profits. I want the profits. I just want you to pay the cost. No, the answer is hell no. But all our politicians are dirty and corrupt. So we need to find one guy who's gonna say hell no on behalf of the American people. Jordan.
Yeah, I'm kind of mystified by this right-wing, like anti-corporate push, because you see flashes like this. You see people like Bannon make these comments that I largely agree with. I'll get to the EV component in a minute. But in the first Trump term, he proposed raising taxes on the wealthy, and then the rest of the movement shot him down. This isn't to say I like him. I think he's got a lot of concerning aspects to his public persona, but on some things we align, and I think that's something worth fighting for, fighting back against this corporate control of our government. But then he invokes EVs, and yes, of course, Musk would want that because of Tesla, but in general, I think those are good, right? Like, let's be clear. I think what they were proposing with the Inflation Reduction Act during the Biden administration, only providing those subsidies if you buy a union-made EV, that's even better. That's a way to keep Elon Musk out of the equation because he has fought Tesla unionization, while also incentivizing the purchase of EVs. Something we desperately need to tackle and transition to. With the Trump re-election, there's been a major setback. We're still subsidizing oil companies. You and I have talked about this. You've covered this for years. Billions of dollars every year for oil companies. At what cost? Hurts the environment. It hurts our agriculture. It hurts everything. So when you are reliant on combustion vehicles, when you are relying on traditional cars, I'm all for subsidies for EVs. Unfortunately, with Trump, we don't have those. On other things, yeah, no, the excess subsidies on corn makes us all unhealthy. The excess subsidies subsidies in general on oil, absolutely not. But on this thing, I kind of see how he's approaching it, just because he doesn't like Elon Musk. But I do actually like subsidies on EVs.
Yeah, I have the same policy on that, which is, look, I get it. When it's a nascent industry and the government is trying to stimulate that industry and get it up off the ground, there's logic in it. Why we do $35 billion a year in oil subsidies is mystifying. That's not a nascent industry, it's a mature industry. It's a deeply, deeply profitable industry. Those oil subsidies are nothing but an absolute robbery. Flat out, 100% rob the average American to give to corporate donors that have legally bribed all of our politicians, okay? So the EVs are a different situation because you're trying to accomplish a goal here and you're trying to get an industry going on its own 2 feet, and then you're supposed to let it go, by the way. But even so, Jordan, I would take equity. Like, you want subsidies? Okay, then let's make a reasonable deal. If you're a nascent industry, maybe I take 20% equity, maybe I take 10% equity. But don't tell me that American taxpayers have to give you money for free and we're never gonna get anything in return. No, I'm at a blanket no on that now.
No, I love that, especially for scientific advancements, pharmaceuticals. We're not investing. Why are we investing in the research process of these, funding largely the research and development of these new drugs, and then have to go and pay full price? You're lucky if you have insurance, thanks to this government, and then you got to pay hundreds of dollars for essential medication. No. We funded it. We get it.
Yeah. All right. Interestingly, people fighting for the average American has broken out in America. So we'll take that silver lining. We'll take that little bit of ray of hope and run with it. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break here. When we come back, the Epstein story. It is huge. You do not want to miss it. And there are important nuggets in there that people have not yet emphasized that I need you to know about. So stay right here.
They knew and they let it happen.
What contributions to the progressive cause are you most proud of? I mean, I don't have super high aspirations for a singular role that I can play in the movement or anything. I try to present myself as what I think that I am, which is a progressive man who is driven by I think, well-interrogated and well-organized system of values that I try to stay consistent on, and I demonstrate that that's the sort of life that a person can lead and be successful and be happy and all of that. And that should not need to be done, but there are so many people on the right that are trying to push men in the opposite direction that I want to be able to do that. Along the way, if I can get people to care about some topics that they wouldn't necessarily care about, or that for some men they might think that's not a topic that they should be focused on, that's definitely something that I relish doing. And along the way, I mean, we've been able to introduce people to a lot of candidates. That's been a big part of what we've done. Not all of them necessarily got in office. Probably most of them did not. And a lot of them you might not even remember their names. But it was great to be able to provide people the platform where they had the chance of making a difference. Obviously AOC and all that, but there's been a lot of great people along the way.
In the bonus episode for the members, we do some inside baseball. We're gonna look at John's desk. Nice little spaceship here. Nerd, but it is kind of look cool. Who has Legos? Oh no. He's taken apart a keyboard. Who has a mouse pad that's this big? He's got a dog with a nose that you can hang something on. You know what this desk screams to me? Nerd. And that's how we like him. We love Johnny Pie. He's got his own personality like everybody does at TYT. Come meet us all in the bonus episodes. TYT.com/team.
David Sorrell, Anita Turner.
Adam Green drop by.
Charlamagne. Congressman, great to have you. It's great to be with you, Cenk.
Your show is a great thing. You're informing people. A lot of the shows that I live on, my CNN, my MSNBC, and even Fox, and any of the other shows, NPR, they are so quick to decide that they know what this building means today.
The one thing that I hate that politicians do, they talk about the people they should be talking to.
Do they have any idea that they're the establishment and that they're hated? Or do they not realize that at all?
People are so deeply in their little universe. I think it's very easy to not really question what you're doing.
Voters have a right to ask questions of any nominee, whether they're independent, Republican, or Democrat.
The system is duopoly that suppresses competition.
How is it the year 2024 and we're still like, maybe they'll talk about paid medical? Like how is that like at one level it's like, this is what we're talking about now. You're like, it's 2024.
And that's always been the critique, that your critique of us is, well, you guys give good speeches, you put out good tweets, but you're not wielding actual power. Now we're starting to.
My favorite news platform by far. It's not even close.
It's about a country and a principle, and that's what you and I both worked to achieve, and I'm so glad that at least half the battle has now been won.
If you want to go really hear what's going on honestly, you should tune into the Young Turks.
Thanks for doing such a great job. Please keep it up. Hang tough.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
I like teleprompters here, folks.
This is a happy
I don't need teleprompters.
You're welcome,
it's called
you too.
like up here, and it's
Join the Dragon
memory,
Squad
and
by
it's
becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
This is a robbery!
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. Finally, we get to the Epstein story. Jordan, take it away.
Today, President Donald Trump's ties to Jeffrey Epstein are back in the spotlight thanks to thousands of pages of emails released by both Republicans and Democrats in Congress. Cenk, what are your 2 cents?
Oh boy, is the beginning of my 2 cents. So we're super damning emails, but I think that there are really interesting nuggets in here, like why were reporters looking to help Jeffrey Epstein? And whether Trump is involved or not, and there's a lot of evidence here, but I would say mainly in one direction, but there is one piece of counter evidence too that I want to make sure that you guys see. But whether he's involved or not, who organized this whole thing is the main question that I have. So let's give you all the details and then break down all the interesting parts that others might have missed.
Yeah, well, this morning, Democrats in the House Oversight Committee released a new batch of Epstein emails, and 3 of them are especially interesting. The first was an email that Epstein sent to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2011. I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. In response, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt stated the unnamed victim referenced in these emails is the late Virginia Giuffre, who repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever and couldn't have been friendlier to her in their limited interactions. Now, here is the second email which Epstein sent to journalist Michael Wolff in 2019. Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Finally, here is an email exchange between Epstein and Wolff from 2015 when Trump was first running for president. Wolff, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Wolff, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Now, Cenk, there are many, many more emails released by the Republicans later today, but what are your first thoughts on those 3 released by House Oversight Democrats?
I'm gonna give you one more interaction that Epstein had with a reporter to give you the context for what I'm gonna say about Michael Wolff. There's apparently a New York Times reporter, Landon Thomas Jr., who also tipped off Epstein in the emails saying, hey, someone is looking into finding out more about you and he might write a book and I'm giving you a heads up, etc. Why is a New York Times reporter coordinating with Jeffrey Epstein and giving him information to protect him? That is super weird. His name is, like I said, Landon Thomas Jr. He's no longer with the New York Times now, but that was pretty recent that happened. And then Michael Wolff, so-called intrepid journalist, going and strategizing with Epstein. Should we put a dagger in Trump's back or shouldn't we? How should we handle this? Who's we? Who the hell's we? What's going on here? This is super strange. And should we take out Trump now or should we use it as leverage against him later? Who the F is we? Why is Michael Wolff working with Epstein on this? And he's supposed to be like, oh, tough journalist, and he's been charged with not getting his facts right on attacks he's made against Donald Trump, etc. We stopped using him as a source because we thought he's unreliable. We're not going to quote a guy who's unreliable. And so that didn't have anything to do with politics. I'm against Trump, but he said things about Trump that didn't check out. I'm like, I'm done with him. And apparently we were right. So then Michael Wolff is asked about it today and he gives an answer. And in his discussion about it, he keeps saying over and over again, now we see the real issue here and the only question is, did Donald Trump know, was he involved in this plot? Why are you telling me that's the only question? Isn't it weird? Like, so, okay, brother, you are working with Epstein to cover up Epstein's crimes, even though you're a journalist. And now you come out and you go, aha, you see how it's definitely not me. Forget Epstein, forget anyone else organizing this. It's Donald Trump, which makes me think, wait, I guess it's not Donald Trump. Okay, so now look, guys, whether it's Donald Trump, I don't know. And if you say, hey, Cenk, how could you not know? But look at all this damning stuff, right? No question, there's tons of damning stuff here. And could Trump have done it? I mean, how many times did Trump talk about how much he likes young girls? Super awkward, not just how he knows that Jeffrey Epstein likes young girls, but Trump would often comment to a very young girl, oh, you're gonna be hot when you grow up. And comments about his own daughter, etc. And did Trump know that Epstein was doing something with young girls that was not right? Oh, of course he knew. He literally said, there's a quote of him saying, and Jeffrey likes women as much as do, but he likes them on the younger side. You're saying it publicly, right? And here's a quote where Epstein said in the emails, the one that Jordan read to you a minute ago, of course he knew about the girls. That's Epstein saying, of course he knew about the girls. So wait, where's the part where I'm a little skeptical whether Trump did it? The very next thing, if you notice, was he said, of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Why did Trump ask Ghislaine Maxwell to stop? That's a good question, right? And so, now, of course, Trump will say, and Trump's followers will say, oh, that's because he's the one guy who stood up to him. But when reporters asked Trump, he said, yeah, they were taking the girls from Mar-a-Lago. They were masseuses at Mar-a-Lago, I didn't like that. Oh, you idiot. Thank you for at least that confession, right? It would have been so easy to say, oh, I'm stopping the bad guy. But since he has verbal diarrhea, he just said what was actually in his mind, which is like, they were taking my young girls and moving them over to Epstein's, right? So, but to me, Jordan, like whether Trump did it is of course super relevant, I get it, right? But what's much more relevant is who the hell organized this giant scheme in the middle of America to molest and rape American girls on video and make sure that you have super wealthy, super powerful men on tape committing this awful crime. And other than Drop Site News and us and a couple other outlets, I mean, mainstream media is preposterous. They're pretending like, oh, what do you mean? It was just Epstein and Maxwell. It couldn't possibly be anyone else. I'll get to Drop Site News and their incredible revelations in a second. But what do you think about all that?
I don't have a reason to doubt Drop Site's reporting. Sure, I guess. I've long maintained when you talk about, or you or anybody, oh, Mossad's behind this. Yeah, could be. I'd want to see more reporting, more evidence. That's all. But I don't think it's worth it for me anyway. Speculating and then just running with it. So I'm not saying you're doing that, but I would like to see more reporting on that. Wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Yeah, so I'm going to come back to Trump in a second. So I referenced it, Jordan just referenced this, so let me just explain. Drop Site News has 4 articles about Epstein's connections to Mossad. So Epstein, turns out, was way more powerful than I even realized. And so he was Ehud Barak, the former head of intelligence for Israel, former defense minister for Israel, former prime minister for Israel. Not only did he come and visit with Epstein 30 times, he's all over the emails, they're constantly communicating. Not only that, there was a guy who is a current Israeli intelligence operative that was also working with them and would run errands for Ehud Barak, and he'd worked with Barak for a long time, and then also doing things with Epstein. And then Barak would go to Epstein to help him with different international relationships, including with Vladimir Putin. And Epstein would then organize those meetings. Okay, first, stop right there. That means he has more power than the former Israeli prime minister. And the Israeli prime ministers are pretty much the most powerful people on earth. He had more power than them? Jesus, okay? So then he organizes that deal, and what is it about? And you see it in the emails, not just these newly released emails, but the ones that Drop Site News got. And that's Ryan Grimm, Jeremy Scahill, unimpeachable reporters, the best reporters in the country. And so it turns out that why they were trying to get in touch with Putin was because they wanted to topple Assad's regime. They wanted to say that he used chemical weapons, and they wanted it to be a red line, and they were insistent on red line, make sure everybody's talking about red line, so that if he crosses it, America has to go in and topple the Syrian government on behalf of Israel. And plus, they wanted America to attack Iran, yes, back then as well. And so Epstein is managing the relationships to make sure America does what Israel wants, which is war in Syria and Iran. Now, that is already like amazing news, unbelievable news, and corroborated in their own emails. But what's extra amazing is what Jordan alluded to there. Mainstream media hasn't covered it at all. How could you not cover that story? That's unconscionable. Are you reporters or are you not reporters? I mean, no one can say that's not a giant story. That's as big a story as I've ever heard. Epstein is just a national story that will not stop under any circumstance. And we have evidence that Epstein is working with Israel to get America to go into these wars, and that's not relevant? No. He's working with an intelligence officer, that's Mossad. He's working with the former head of Mossad. He's working with the former prime minister of Israel. He, by the way, in his house, just in case it wasn't clear, giant map of Israel right in the middle, right? But mainstream media goes, shh, it's Trump, it's definitely Trump, it's only Trump. Don't look at anyone else, just Trump. No, I don't know if it's Trump, but I do know it ain't just Trump. I mean, I saw a news article today, preposterous, where they wrote, well, it could be Trump. And obviously the people who organized this are just Epstein and Maxwell. I mean, there's Prince Andrew as well, but Prince Andrew is that's the only other person that was involved. Nah, that's not news, that's propaganda. And so what the F is going on here? So look, what's your take on Trump being involved or not after seeing all this?
No, he most certainly is. There's no doubt in my mind. There hasn't been a doubt in my mind, but there's even more, Cenk. And I think some of the stuff that we saw from Republicans could be even worse. Now, so we have House Democrats. They released those 3 emails. And in response, House Republicans on the Oversight Committee released 20,000 more documents from Epstein's estate. They said that the Democrats had cherry-picked emails that made Trump look bad. And like I said, I think some of these are actually worse, or at the very least, equally bad. But Trump, he doesn't look any better in my opinion. For example, in 2018, Epstein seemed to be discussing the Stormy Daniels hush money case with former Obama White House counsel Kathy Rumler. Epstein stated, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers and NY biz people have no idea. what it means to have your fixer flip. And there's more. In emails to then New York Times reporter Landon Thomas Jr., Epstein asked if Landon would like to see photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen. Epstein also told Thomas Jr. that Norwegian businesswoman Selena Middelfart was my 20-year-old girlfriend in '93 that after 2 years I gave to Donald. In October 2016, just before Trump would be elected president, Wolf, who we mentioned earlier, wrote the following to Epstein. There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested. The subject line of that email read, now could be the time. It's unknown if Epstein responded. But speaking of the first Trump administration, in 2008, then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta managed to get Jeffrey Epstein a lenient plea deal. Now, let's fast forward to 2017 when Acosta was picked as Trump's labor secretary. That year, Epstein asked his defense lawyer, Roy Black, who will represent Acosta at hearings. But Epstein's sphere of influence extended far beyond Donald Trump. In an email from 2014, Epstein claimed that he was meeting with Leon Black, former CEO of Apollo Global Management, Gordon Brown, former UK Prime Minister, Bill Burns, former director of the CIA, Larry Summers, former US Treasury Secretary, and Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal and Palantir, as well as leaders from Mongolia, Qatar, and the UAE. And Cenk, we're just scratching the surface. Like I said, there's 20,000 emails. Many of them have been shared elsewhere online on social media. It doesn't look good. What do you make of this?
Yeah, so you mentioned Kathy Rumler. So who's Kathy Rumler? She's Obama's former White House counsel. Wait, what? So Trump and Epstein working together, Republicans helping and hiding Epstein crimes, etc. But now here come the Democrats. So why is Obama's former White House counsel involved in this? Okay, well, we're not done with that. So then back to the Israeli spy that I was mentioning earlier. His name is Yoni Koren. He's passed away now, but he stayed in, not only did he work with Jeffrey Epstein, he stayed in his house for 3 extended stretches. So Epstein's like, oh, Mossad spy, come on in and stay in my house as long as you like, okay? And then that same guy then arranges for a White House visit for Ehud Barak and his grandkids. This is after Barak is no longer Israeli prime minister. So Koren is apparently enormously powerful and arranges a whole bunch of things for Ehud Barak. And who's the one that's helping Koren set all this up? Jeremy Bash, huh? Bash is an interesting last name. Oh, right, that's Dana Bash has the same last name. Oh, that's Dana Bash's ex-husband. So Dana Bash's ex-husband worked in Democratic administration, but helped an Israeli spy get all these different favors for Ehud Barak. What is going on here? Democrats, Republicans, and media all helping Epstein and Ehud Barak and Yoni Koren and all these Israeli figures that are Mossad, literally, or ran intelligence for Israel, or is Epstein, which is apparently even more powerful than all those guys. That is super frickin' strange. And if anyone in mainstream media tells you, oh no, that sounds conspiratorial, well, which part of it? This is reported out. So if you think Drop Site News has it wrong, you think the leaked emails are wrong, say they're wrong. Prove that they're wrong. If they're not wrong, why aren't you covering it? That is monumentally strange. When every single thing goes, no, it's obvious that Epstein is Israel. No, shush, 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 shush. Clinton, Trump, Clinton, Trump. It's all Americans. You Americans are the real problem. And then on top of that today, Jordan, out of nowhere, they're trying to convince Lauren Boebert to not, sign on to releasing the Epstein files. We're going to talk more about that later in the show. They bring in Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, to talk to her. What? Why is the Attorney General and the FBI Director talking to a US Congressperson about a vote they're gonna have in Congress? The only reason why they could be involved, Jordan, is if it's a national security matter. And it would be a national security matter if us or our allies' intelligence operations were involved. If they weren't involved, that is a highly inappropriate meeting. What in the world, are they threatening her? Are they threatening to arrest her? What are they doing? Why are they talking to her? Why is that conversation even happening? And there's only one logical answer, and you're apparently not ever going to see it in mainstream media, and it's, no, the issue is much larger than Trump. The issue is even larger than Epstein. There are some folks in this country that are working for a different country, and they have done some terrible things, and they have covered up terrible things, and at this point, it is glaringly obvious. That's my take on it. Jordan, last word.
Yeah, that meeting, which we'll get into, is alarming. I think it lends credence to what you've been saying, what you suspect. They were meeting in the Situation Room. That's not just a casual sit down to talk about optics or making sure they're coordinated. They know that this is something that she's been hammering for years, and they don't want her to partake. They got that potential vote coming up. We'll get in the next block. Grevalia's now in office, gotten sworn in finally. That gives Democrats the votes. They don't want this to get out. And I think the more I hear about it, the more I'm with you. I think that's exactly why. It's a national security issue.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break here and talk about exactly what we promised you guys, the pressure campaign to try to limit this story, the details of it, and is it working? We'll be right back.
As I see some young, very good-looking children.
All right, let's go to our members, TYT.com. Rural Dragon says, do you guys remember when Trump claimed not to know who Epstein was? How the F was he able to get elected again? Well, I mean, Michael Wolff and Epstein had a conversation about whether they should allow Trump to get elected or not. So I guess whoever's leading that operation decided, let him go forward. We will allow the Americans to select Donald Trump. Okay. On a related note, how absolutely pathetic does it show the Democratic Party to be? The country was mostly like, yeah, he's a pedo or pedo, but at least he's not a corporate Democrat. Well, I don't know that they all knew that, but yeah, the corporate Democrats lost to Donald Trump twice in humiliating fashion because they're obviously morons. Okay, Mr. In Between writes in, with a name like Middlefart, whoever smelt it. Okay, it's a serious story, but we have a fun audience and fun host. LCPR 666 says, I'm old enough to remember Watergate coverage. This is 10,000 times worse and goes way deep in compromising the US government, and there's like 0.1% of the coverage. That's exactly right. So you could tell me, oh, Cenk, you're crazy. It's not Israel's secret intelligence, even though they're all over the story. It's Norway's, it's Vietnam's. Okay, but even then, not even then, also then, it would be a giant story. But all of a sudden, and mainstream media is like, oh, something that would get us massive attention would be the story of our lifetimes, not interested. Okay, you can say that there's no conspiracy. You can't say that's not strange. No one in this country can say that's not strange. That's super freaking strange. Okay, Lou B says the Epstein story is even bigger than the conspiracy theorists could imagine. Yeah, apparently. Teddy Lucy Linda says Michael Wolff is so shady, always has been. And let me keep going here because so many people wrote in about so many different things. Weed Eater 72 says, I saw MSNBC covered on Ari Melber. No, not about Epstein, guys. No, they're covering Epstein. They're just not covering the massive connections he has to Israeli intelligence. So that's the thing. They're like, no one talk. Anti-Semite. Anti-Semite. Cancel him. Ruin his life. Cover up the news. Cover up the news. No one say the news. No one say the news. We're in the news business. Okay, if you say so. David Michelle says, if the emails are this bad, I don't even want to imagine what's in the files. Yeah, we already know the emails, and they're still like, not the files, right? So that's a great point, brother, and I'll quote you on it later. Fargarap says, there are two ways to finance a company, equity or loan. The bank's bailout was a loan. Taxpayers got interest on the loan in return. So look, no, brother, I know how to finance companies. Ain't nobody giving you a loan in that kind of situation. You're gonna have to go get an investment that's equity, right? So that's a long, complicated issue. But I love that you're thinking about it and writing in with your expertise. Appreciate it. We'll be right back. Back on TYT, Cenk and Jordan with you guys. Also, Lauren B. Lauren, you're awesome for joining. We appreciate that. That's the join button right underneath on YouTube. Makes a big difference. I'm going to read one quick super chat here. A political blurb wrote, and one thing we've forgotten to mention is how scary the way Epstein died is now as more and more information comes out. It's obvious they couldn't even risk him being alive. Well, that's super obvious to anyone with a brain, which excludes all of mainstream media. Okay, Jordan, what's next?
Take a look at this.
Why are White House officials then meeting with Representative Boebert in an effort to try and get her to not sign this petition calling for the release of the files?
Doesn't it show transparency that members of the Trump administration are willing to brief members of Congress whenever they please? Doesn't that show our level of transparency? Doesn't that show the level of transparency when we are willing to sit down with members of Congress and address their concerns?
Today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed that the Trump administration met with Lauren Boebert, one of the few Republicans in Congress who wants the Epstein files released. Now, this is relevant considering that the House of Representatives can finally force a vote on the issue today. Now, Cenk, we spent a lot of time this hour talking about it, but what do you make of this angle specifically?
So I think that this proves something pretty definitively that it involves intelligence agencies. I'll explain why in a minute after Jordan gives you the whole story. But I also wanted to point out, she said, they met with her to address her concerns. Why? Did Lauren Boebert have concerns regarding the FBI and the Attorney General in regards to the Epstein vote? Why would she have those concerns? Did she ask for the meeting? And if she did, does she have national security concerns around Epstein? Because that would be a very interesting story. So none of this makes any sense, but we'll make sense of it for you.
Now, here's what you need to know. Today, Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva has finally been sworn into Congress. And with her support, the House of Representatives can force a vote on releasing the Epstein files. That effort has been led by Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. They need 218 signatures on a discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the files. Grijalva was the 218th. All of the House Democrats are on board with forcing that vote. A few Republicans are as well. And here is that list excluding Massie, who we already mentioned. Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Nancy Mace. Now, the Trump administration is trying to keep the files hidden. According to anonymous sources who spoke with the New York Times, yesterday, Trump spoke with Boebert on the phone. Today, Boebert was summoned to a meeting in the White House Situation Room with Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and others. The Times sources stated that Trump has been trying to connect with Mace, but she has yet to pick up his calls. Meanwhile, Trump is crashing out on Truth Social once again. Writing here, the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country while at the same time putting many at risk. And they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else, and any Republican involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. In other words, he continued, the Democrats are using the Jeffrey Epstein hoax to try and deflect from their massive failures, in particular, their most recent one, the shutdown. Cenk, this is very bizarre. You're pulling a member of Congress who's on the other side of an issue into the Situation Room. Why not an Oval Office sit down? Why not meeting at the departments? Why not going to her office? It seems like there's a layer of sensitivity here that Caroline Leavitt accidentally disclosed.
No, they just gave away the game. It's definitely about national security. There's no other reason to be in the Situation Room. There's no other reason to have the Attorney General and the FBI director there. This is a vote in Congress. It has nothing to do with them. So apparently, it is national security. So that means Epstein and Maxwell did not work alone. Period. Period. End of conversation. So now the logical next question is, so who did they work with? Now, we've already told you in other stories, and now backed up by Dropsite News' brilliant 4-part series, there is absolutely no question which country Epstein worked with. It was Israel. So that's not conjecture, it's not a conspiracy theory. He had Ehud Barak, the former prime minister, over 30 times. That was already public knowledge, everybody knew that. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad is Robert Maxwell, probably the most legendary Mossad spy of all time, stole America's nuclear secrets, gave it to Israel. But you say, okay, that's her dad. Okay, maybe the Israeli prime minister was just, visiting coincidentally, or maybe he was a pervert himself. All those things are possible. But now we know through Dropsite News, no. Epstein and Ehud Barak, and Israeli spy, by the way, also, current Israeli spy at the time, now deceased, all working together. And what were they working together on? Working on getting Putin to back out of Syria so that they could topple the Assad regime, which Israel was opposed to, and attacking Iran and pushing America into a war with Iran and with Syria. So it's not at all a mystery which government Epstein was working with. It's definitive now. You could go read it for yourself. We have Epstein's emails, we have Ehud Barak's emails. So there's no lack of clarity. Epstein was working with Israel, and now if you're gonna vote on this, they're gonna pull you into the Situation Room and lecture you on how you're not allowed to vote to tell the American people what actually happened and how a special ally might not be an ally at all. Okay, so now, I'm so frustrated by this. I assume they speak in coded language. I don't know, I'm not in the Situation Room. But do they literally tell Boebert, that's it, you work for Israel and shut up and do as you're told? Or do they use interesting coded language? Will Boebert ever tell us what they actually said, right? So, but now it doesn't matter, it's moot. Why is it moot? Not just because Grijalva was sworn in, but Jordan, there's a chance that these guys are mega dumb. I don't mean the Israelis, they're the people that worked on this. It's not all Israelis, but whoever worked on this in Israeli intelligence was brilliant and kept it hidden with the convenient help of almost all of mainstream media, and almost every American politician kept it hidden for decades. No, I'm talking about Trump and his cronies. There's some chance the dumbasses didn't know if the House passes it, that doesn't really mean anything. It has to go to the Senate, and you have a squadron of corrupt senators who would love to serve Israel and block this. So that's another bite at the apple, but even then it doesn't matter, because if you get past the Senate, the president has to sign off on it. And of course he's gonna veto it, because he's all over the Epstein files, and he's desperately trying to prevent Epstein files being released. So what are they panicking about, right? So they pull in these guys, oh, don't vote on it. And so why do I say that there might be idiots and not realize that? Because guys, what happened after Grijalva got seated, and apparently the beseechment of Nancy Mace and Boebert didn't work, is all of a sudden now Republicans are coming out right after that and going, oh yeah, I was gonna vote to release it too. Of course you were, of course you were. So now Warren Davidson, Eli Crane, and Don Bacon have now come out, now that it's clear that they're gonna lose the vote. Yeah, I meant release it. Of course, I don't work for Israel. I mean, all that AIPAC money and stuff. No. I don't work for Epstein. I'm not trying to cover up for Epstein and all of his crimes and raping American children. No. I meant release it. We lost the vote, right? For sure, Israel's not gonna punish me. Okay, yeah, we lost the vote. Okay, yeah, I meant to release it. There's some chance they didn't know that it has, you idiots, it has to go to the Senate and the president. You didn't know that? Anyways, okay, Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of enamored with these people trying to save face at the last minute. Like, no, we saw where you were. We saw people try to deflect, cover for Trump. You had months to do this. They all wanted to run on it. They all wanted to work people up into a frenzy, thinking the only person who would be implicated would be Bill Clinton or I guess a couple people, Bill Gates and a few other people they could, project as Democrats. But now that it's implicating their guys, suddenly it's much more complicated. Let's not rush to anything. So what's interesting here is some of the people involved, of course, but also how, again, they've showed their hand accidentally. And beyond the Epstein stuff, we've spent a lot of time this hour talking about it. To me, it underscores just how inept this administration is. Because Caroline Leavitt I don't think she meant to reveal where that meeting took place. But in doing so, she told us so much more than they actually want out there. They could have just said in the White House. They could have said whatever. They had a meeting. It didn't have to be where specifically it was held. And we might even see them try to walk that back tomorrow as more and more people start to connect the dots. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. But this is a team of dunces that Trump has put together, all because they're loyal to him and they are in service of him. We've talked about it a lot, of course, but just Pam Bondi being in that meeting, yes, part of it is because it's probably a national security issue, probably an intelligence community issue, but also her job is just protecting Trump. He's totally politicized the FBI. That's a bad thing. We see it across the board, but it's like a secondary thing in this story because this main topic is so awful, so heinous, and so large, but also, again, it's another reminder that he has weaponized these departments.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave you with the last irony here, which is that Caroline Leavitt described trying to desperately block the release of the Epstein files as their efforts at transparency. We're now fully in 1984 Orwellian state, where everyone in government agrees that lies are truth and truth are lies. Okay, Jordan, great job. Thank you, brother. We appreciate it. When we come back, the myth, the legend, Ana Kasparian. All right, back on TYT. So lots of folks writing in on the different topics we've covered. On the subsidies, on Super Chat, Tony Hopo wrote in, all the private capital is going to AI, and AI is taking even our tech jobs. It's a cold day in hell if I'm gonna have to also pay taxes to replace me. So Tony, that's exactly right. They're going too far. They're pushing us to the edge. And that's why there's this rebellion that's brewing. Like everyone in power is a liar. Like almost all of the media, almost all of the politicians are giant liars about almost every topic. It's infuriating. All right, but now we know. Dave Mill wrote in, end all government subsidies 100% even for the poor. So we mentioned earlier, he's a conservative viewer, so he's super clear on that. 00083 says, Cenk was right again. Now they're copying TYT. That's a win in my book. That's referring to Steve Bannon talking about corporatism, socializing the losses, privatizing the gains. That's Naomi Klein. And he's talking about how if we give money to these companies, then we should take equity back. That's an idea that we've been talking about for a long time on TYT, so I appreciate you noticing that. Gargoyle Dragon says, this AI slop just reminds me of East India's company scandal of England. When this bubble pops, only the rich will survive. This bubble's so bad though, brother, I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be massive destruction, in my opinion. All right, Michael Rosamila writes in on the YouTube member section. I feel like this is a big go big or go home period in politics. I don't trust anything in Democratic circles that advises defensive caution. That's about the Graham Plattner story. Delivery Ghost says, this is the standard play when it comes to Plattner. The establishment punches left and then wonders why the Overton window moves right. So that's certainly true as well. Don't shoot on the goalkeeper says at TYT.com. OF you, Americans can barely get federal assistance for anything. Why does your crappy AI deserve government backing? We all agree with that. Now guys, we're gonna do a segment with Anna here, and then afterwards, we're gonna do the discussion with the two Iowa Senate candidates. We're gonna need you guys who are paying members to vote on that, so make sure you're sticking around for that, okay? And it's gonna be a big segment that we're all excited about. All right, more news when we return. All right, back on TYT, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. Anna, good to see you. You made it in time for one story, so let's do it. Let's give the people what they want.
All right, let's get right to it.
Social media was an accelerant for anti-Semitism, the cheapening of our language, genocide, and using those terms. I mean, that's just categorically not what occurred in the Gaza war. Whether it's the blood libel, whatever that is called, it's like Israel never targeted civilians, and they never tried to starve or committed any kinds of genocide. And that's been what's so difficult for me is like being devotion to Israel becoming increasingly incompatible with being a proud Democrat now too.
During his interview with Barry Weiss on her podcast, Honestly, Senator John Fetterman seems to have a difficult time understanding why there's been this groundswell of anger and criticism toward the Israeli government. Barry Weiss thinks it has to do with algorithms and social media platforms. But I have a different answer. What say you, Cenk?
Yeah, so Israel did commit a genocide. They did starve people, and they own bitches like John Fetterman, and they get the American government to work for them, but also tons of people in media, including Barry Weiss, because as you're about to see, the media in this country is covering up the land theft that is definitively happening in Gaza, and you're gonna see evidence of it now.
That's exactly right. So Israel has apparently destroyed more than 1,500 buildings in Gaza since the ceasefire was reached back in October 10th. Okay, so since October 10th, they have destroyed 1,500 buildings, many of which, of course, were residential homes. And all of these structures have been destroyed where Israel is essentially occupying 53% of the Gaza Strip. So there's supposedly this yellow line, and the area in which the IDF is currently at, they're basically doing these controlled demolitions. They're demolishing the homes. Now, the reason why this is relevant is because according to Trump's peace deal, Israel is supposed to withdraw from the Gaza Strip eventually. But it's become abundantly clear that that is not what they're gonna do. That is not what they intend to do. And in fact, they're clearing the way to essentially settle that land. So let's get to the actual evidence here. So BBC's Verify was able to make this assessment using satellite imagery as recent as November 8th. But they do warn that the actual number, the specific number of destroyed buildings could actually be significantly higher because satellite imagery is not available in some areas in which the IDF is occupying that 53% of the Gaza Strip. Now, verified videos showing controlled demolitions and excavators tearing down buildings published to social media since the ceasefire have also been geolocated to areas behind this so-called yellow line. And while there are absolutely some concerns that Israel is, doing what they typically do, violating the ceasefire deal, an IDF spokesperson told the BBC, or BBC Verify specifically, that it was acting in accordance with the ceasefire framework. And you know what, Cenk? I think this might be one of the rare instances where the IDF is telling the truth, because I don't really trust the Trump administration in wanting to broker real peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I mean, Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, salivates at that oceanfront property, right? So, I mean, it starts with the 53% that Israel is currently occupying, and I'm sure it'll expand further from that. Now, let's see what accordance with the ceasefire looks like according to the Israelis. So we're gonna show you a few examples that were provided by BBC Verify. Again, these are structures that have been destroyed since the ceasefire. So this is Abasan al-Kabira, and you see the image on the left-hand side. That's on October 14th, 2025. And then as of November 10th, 2025, all of those structures have been destroyed, absolutely demolished. Lana Khalil, who actually used to live in that area before she was displaced to nearby Al-Mawasi, described her home as being a heaven and full of farms and vegetables. She says that the Israeli military left nothing to us. They demolished everything. Our hearts are broken. Guys, I mean, just think about your home and what your home represents. It's the place you go to for comfort, for safety. It's where all the things you love are. And Israel just comes in, destroys these homes, and the US just sits idly by, allows it to happen. In fact, bankrolls it. Let's give you one other example. This one isn't as stark, but you can see that the remaining structures were destroyed. This is in Al-Bayuk, and on the left-hand side, you'll see what it looked like on October 14th. And as of November 5th, anything that remained was pretty much destroyed. So the destruction is also taking place in Gaza City. Let's be clear about that. And Israel has defended its actions by claiming that they're dismantling terror infrastructure, because that's all they need to say. They're demolishing terror infrastructure, use the word terrorism, use the word terror, and all is good. They can get away with anything.
Yeah, so obviously they're never gonna withdraw. We told you that from day one, we were right. Meanwhile, mainstream media said, oh, well, that's conspiratorial and how dare you, beloved Israel, and they're just doing self-defense. We said that they would take the land. Now they have 53% of the land. We said they would destroy things and then rebuild it for Israel. Now they're destroying literally everything in the part that they control. They haven't followed the ceasefire at all. They also continue to bomb Gaza. They've killed hundreds of Palestinians. Scores of children have been murdered by Israel since the ceasefire because their plan has always been, and we told you they're paying $1,500 to American mercenaries. They were earlier for every home that they destroyed. And Anna's right, imagine it's your home. It's got all the pictures of your family in there. It's got all your worldly possessions. It's where you grew up or your kids grew up. And they come in and they bulldoze it, they explode it. And then they say, yeah, of course. And then you ask them, why are you doing that? They go, well, we need a safe haven for Jews. But the Palestinians don't need a safe haven. The Palestinians deserve no haven, no home, nothing. Israel has the right to take all their land, murder them, ethnically cleanse them from that land, and then take it for themselves while our grotesque media and our grotesque politicians cover for them and go, oh no. And you see that bitch Fetterman? Oh, you can't call this a genocide. Oh no, I don't know why. I mean, how dare they say things like this about Israel? Oh, come on, man. You're pathetic. But you're not just embarrassing yourself anymore. You're embarrassing us. You're a United States senator who's sitting there groveling at the feet of Israel and Netanyahu, go, please, I'll send you more, not of my money, of my taxpayer money. I'll rob them for you. I'll rob their money and give it to you for ethnic cleansing. And then he goes on the propagandist Barry Weiss's show called Honestly. And they talk about, it's poor Israel. Why is social media showing Israel's crimes? We used to be able to cover up all the crimes with mainstream media. Don't worry, Barry's now in charge of CBS, and soon she might be in charge of CNN. And don't worry, Larry Ellison and all the other people have literally said in public, no, we're going to support Israel, and that's why we're buying up the media. But don't say it because it's a trope, right? It's a trope. But they're saying it, we're not saying it. And now it's clear as day, and you're seeing it in the pictures, and BBC, thank you for covering it. You need to go to outside of American press for it. Yeah, absolute destruction of all that land so that Israel can come in and say, well, there's nothing left to come back to. So the Palestinians can't come back and we're never leaving. And I guess we're gonna have to rebuild it. Well, we'll rebuild it for Israel. If you think they're not gonna do that, you're either a liar, you're biased and you can't see straight, or you're the dimmest light there is. Like, oh, I wonder why they are destroying all the Palestinian homes. And it looks like they're not leaving even though they promised to leave. That is so strange. It's not strange at all. That was the plan all along. The only question was, how much of Gaza could they steal? And right now it stands at 53%. Anyone telling you anything else literally works for Israel and does Israeli propaganda on their behalf. All right, we're unfortunately out of time and we have an amazing segment next. Anna, thanks for coming on. I know you had to do something important. And then guys, when we come back, we're gonna have two wonderful left-wing populists, both running for the Iowa Senate seat. I'm pretty sure one of them is gonna win that seat. And what we're asking you guys to do is, if you're a paying member, to vote on tyt.com, but listen to them first. Don't vote until you hear both of them out. And we're gonna do that when we return. right, now we got a very special episode of The Revolution for you guys. So what we're trying to do is bring on folks who believe that the system needs to change. And in this case, we've got two Senate candidates in Iowa, both Democrats who are left-wing populists. And so we wanted to talk to both of them back to back. This is not a debate, it's a discussion. We want to hear from them. And the first person up is Josh Turk. Second person is going to be Nathan Sage. We're going to ask similar questions here. And then we want you to vote at tyt.com if you're a paying member. We're keeping it to paying members because we don't want trolls. We want to get a sense of where our core audience is. It's not a binding vote, but it'll help inform us which direction we should go. So guys, this is a unique opportunity because there are very rarely two great candidates in a race, and very rarely two populist progressives in a race. So Josh is up first. Josh, welcome to the show. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
No problem. So Josh, for the folks who don't know, tell us who you are and give us an elevator pitch. Why should they pick you?
Sure, I am Iowa State Representative Josh Turek. I am the first permanently disabled member of the Iowa legislature, something I'm very proud of, to be able to give a voice to the 1 in 5 disabled Iowans that are either blind, deaf, intellectually disabled, or physically disabled. Our state capital wasn't even fully accessible. I am also the Democrat that represents the reddest district that was won on election day. Trump won my county by 20 points, won the two communities that I represent by double digits, and I was able to win by nearly 6 points, a 14-point overperformance. And that has taught me the right candidate with the right message, and that right message is certainly prairie populism. And the right work ethic, we can win in adverse conditions. I'm someone that is from a working class community. I'm from a place called Council Bluffs, Iowa, where I was born and raised. 65% of my community lives at or below the poverty line. I'm someone that went through an enormous amount of economic struggle in my life. We went to the Goodwill for our clothes. We shared clothes. We went to the free summer lunch programs, had the wrong color lunch tickets for those of you that means something to. So in a really deeply personal way, I understand the struggles of what so many people are going through right now just to keep food on the table and a roof above their head. I was born with my disability, was born with a condition called spina bifida, so I'm a wheelchair user. This was due to my father's exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. I had my first surgery at 1 day old. I had 21 surgeries before I was even 12. And so I'm certainly somebody that knows and understands the importance of healthcare. And I fundamentally believe that healthcare is a human right. I found myself into politics initially because I was working in healthcare. What I was doing is I was assessing and providing mobility devices for individuals with disabilities and working with those with progressive conditions. And what we were finding is, since Iowa had privatized its Medicaid system, a 1,000% increase in the denial rate for individuals. And I thought that was fundamentally wrong. Found out we had never had a permanently disabled member of the legislature. And I thought it was due to this lack of representation of why we were seeing all these unnecessary barriers to healthcare and to employment. And so even though I was out here in very red Western Iowa, I went out every single day and I dragged my wheelchair upstairs to have conversations with Republicans and independents. In 2022, I was the only Democrat to win a competitive election in all of Western Iowa. I won by just 6 votes, so absolutely never doubt that every single one of your votes matter. That was a 13-point overperformance. But I'm even more proud that we turned that 6-vote margin into a 6% margin, as I said. And that has really told me that the right candidate with the right message and the right work ethic, we can win in these adverse conditions. I'm also a 4-time Paralympian. As you can see, these are my jerseys behind me, and I'm a 2-time gold medalist in wheelchair basketball. And for those of you who don't know, the Summer Paralympics is the 2nd largest sporting event on earth behind the Summer Olympics. So I think that's my story, and I'm genuinely happy to be here.
That's awesome, Josh. I appreciate it. So tell us what prairie populism means to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a prairie populist like my hero, Senator Harkin, who was the father of the American with Disabilities Act, and individuals like Paul Wellstone. Prairie populism is fighting for the middle class. It's fighting for working families. It's fighting for our small family farms, which are being absolutely destroyed, and certainly destroyed by what we're seeing with the tariffs and the commodities prices. It's fighting for small businesses. It's fighting for a livable wage and for affordable healthcare and affordable pharmaceuticals. It's fighting for affordable housing. That to me is what a genuine prairie populist is. It's someone that is fighting for the people, fighting for Iowa and Iowans, and not just looking out for DC donors and lobbyists and large corporations and billionaires, as we're seeing us move into a second Gilded Age.
You said that you overperformed by 13 points. Tell us, for the folks who don't know what that means, what does that mean? But more importantly, why do you think you did?
Yeah, what does that mean does that mean there was 14% of the individuals that decided to go down ballot Republican and voted for me as a Democrat. That was about 50% better than any other Democrat in the entire state. 9% was the one that was in second. The way that I did that was, one, as I said, going out there every single day and being willing to have the hard conversations, getting out there and having conversations with Republicans and independents. The math didn't work any other way. But I was also very disciplined with my message. I didn't focus on the culture war issues. I went out there and I basically talked about 5 things. I talked about the need to raise a minimum wage, and here in Iowa, it's egregiously low, $7.25, and I live in a border community right on the border with Nebraska, and it really has impeded us in particular. And I also talked about the need for affordable and accessible healthcare. And when someone crawls up to your door, first of all, they say, "How in the world did you get here?" Well, I crawled up here, and they have a visible disability, and they tell you that they had 21 surgeries before they're 12 years old. They have a credibility to be able to speak to that. I talked about the need for affordable pharmaceuticals. Sadly, because of my district, one of the most consistent things that I heard on the doors were people saying they've changed their job or they've changed insurance and they can no longer afford to take their medication. And I say it's fundamentally wrong to live in the richest country on earth and having people having to make the impossible decision of every month. This month, do I take my pills or do I pay my bills? I talked about the need to support our public schools and that our public money belongs in our public schools. Iowa, we were #1 in public education. We've now precipitously dropped down now to 26. And I talked about the need to address our cancer rates. Here in Iowa, we have the highest rates of cancer behind only Kentucky, and we're the only state with a growing cancer rate, something that has really touched my life personally. Actually, today I spent the entire day with my sister, who was diagnosed with breast cancer recently, and I spent the day with her actually in chemotherapy. And the last thing I talked about the need for clean air and clean water. And that was it. That was the discipline in my messaging. And I went out every single day and talked to people. And I think that we can employ that exact same route, genuine prairie populism, to be able to win in this state right now.
So you signed on to the Populist plank, and so that's got 6 different components to it. Of those, what do you think resonates the best in Iowa in your experience, especially in connecting the left and the right?
Yeah, well, what was fascinating to me when I was out knocking doors, my assumption was that the only thing that was going to be unanimously agreed upon was going to be that public money belongs in public schools. Here in Iowa, we've now given private schools vouchers, and we gave them a 44% increase in funding. Meanwhile, our public schools only 2%, not even keeping up with inflation. But the only thing that was unanimously agreed to, regardless if it was the most ardent Republican, conservative, was that our healthcare system is fundamentally broken, and that we pay 3 times as much as more than any other nation on earth, and we get by far the worst outcomes. And I think that is the one that certainly resonates the most with me is healthcare and capping pharmaceutical cost.
Okay, makes sense. Do you take corporate PAC money?
I do not. No.
Do you take AIPAC or any other Israeli lobby money?
I do not.
And what's your take on what our policy towards Israel should be? Should we continue to fund the government of Israel?
I certainly think Israel has the right to defend itself, but I think that offensive weapons that should be with the caveat of following international law. I'm hopeful that we see a peaceful solution to this conflict and a 2-state solution. In an end to this, because what we have seen in Gaza has been absolutely horrific, and the loss of life and the loss of civilians and children has been horrible.
Okay, so you would vote to cut funding for offensive weapons to Israel?
I think offensive weapons should only be with a caveat if a nation is following international law.
Okay, now how about the vote on the continuing resolution? 8 Democrats voted with them to end the government shutdown. The government shutdown was causing a lot of pain. What do you think about, would you have voted with the 8 Democrats or no?
No, I would not have. Really, really disappointing. I'm someone, as I've said, that I have championed and carried the flag for healthcare, and I believe that healthcare is a human right. The ACA subsidies are so valuable and important to millions of Americans that are going to see their healthcare premiums go up. Here in Iowa alone, 132,000 Iowans are going to see their healthcare premiums double or triple. This is on top of what we're already seeing with the big beautiful bill or big ugly bill. 110,000 Iowans that are going to lose their healthcare outright. And I've been ranking member on HHS budget here in Iowa, and our Medicaid system is already fundamentally broken. We've got Medicaid waitlists where we've got 26,000 disabled Iowans that are on waitlist. The longest waitlist is 7 years for care. We have closed 31 nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities, and rural hospitals in the last 5 years due to lack of reimbursement. It's fundamentally broken, and I'm disappointed, and I believe that healthcare is absolutely worth fighting for.
So let's say that you get elected, you're in the Senate now, and healthcare is obviously something that animates you, as you just explained. What would be the policy that you would push for?
Yeah, I'd like to see us move into, and in my ideal world, I'd like to see us have a public option. I think that what I have seen far too much in my life is I have seen unnecessary suffering. Like I said today, I mean, I was with my sister, going through it. An example of how broken our healthcare system is right now is she's someone that was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. She has private insurance, and her private insurance came to her and said, because you only have stage 2 breast cancer, not stage 3 or stage 4, we will not cover the PET scan to see if the cancer has spread to other parts of your body unless you pay $30,000 out of pocket. This is what is fundamentally wrong. I've seen far too much suffering of individuals either having to declare medical bankruptcy or divorce their spouse, particularly amongst individuals with disabilities. And I believe that healthcare is a human right, and I'm going to do everything I can to fight for affordable and accessible healthcare.
So obviously the doubling of the ACA subsidy is unacceptable. You just said you're in favor of the public option. You're in the populist plank. There's negotiating drug prices for Medicare, so obviously you agree with that. So the only thing that's left, I mean, there's 1,000 things left in healthcare, but universal healthcare. So are you in favor of that or no?
Yeah, I think that healthcare is a human right, and I think that there should be a public option for every single person. You should not be having to win the genetic lottery to have access to quality and affordable healthcare.
Okay, and last thing, Josh, is so you're a state representative. You've got the backing of some folks within the party, but you also have the backing of populists like J.D. Scholten, who Rebellion PAC had endorsed earlier and was in the race earlier. He got out and backed you. So you're threading that needle in an interesting way. So tell us about that. How do you thread the needle? How do you balance, the more traditional people in the party versus the prairie populists?
I mean, honestly, I'm just being who I am. I'm going out there, and every single day I'm working as hard as I can. So this is a lot of long days and a lot of late nights. We are traveling this state. We are getting in front of people over and over and over. I mean, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm happening here in Iowa. And what I'm talking about is I'm talking about this populist message, what I'm talking to you about. I'm going out there and I'm saying I'm the candidate that is going to work for you, like we had with Senator Tom Harkin, working for the people, working for the middle class, driving down cost, making sure we've got a livable wage, making sure we've got affordable housing, driving out private equity out of our, as I've done at the state legislature, run a bill for a 5-year moratorium on private equity being able to buy single family homes, and doing something about healthcare and pharmaceuticals in our public schools, and making sure everyone has access to clean air and clean water. And that is the message it's applying, and it is resonating with people. We are winning rooms And what we are seeing all over Iowa, not just in urban areas, but in rural areas particularly, because they're upside down with what Trump has done to them with the tariffs and with the commodities prices. We are seeing independents, Republicans, and Democrats that are turning out and saying, Iowa needs a change and the country needs a change. And even people that will say they're Republicans, we have proudly voted for Trump. We've voted for Grassley, we voted for Ernst, but not for this level of naked corruption, not for the erosion of democracy, not for cutting people's health care and food assistance just to give tax breaks to billionaires. And this is really a generational opportunity for us to be able to win here in Iowa. This is the first time since 1968 that we have an open Senate race and an open governor's race, and we have 2 open congressional races. In Trump's first midterm, we won 3 of the 4 congressional seats, and we can do that again. Iowa's going to be the center of the political universe in 2026, and I believe that I am the candidate with the message and the work ethic to be able to win back Senator Harkin's seat back and change our country.
Quick follow-up to that, Josh, because where the rubber hits the road is when it comes to votes, right? So you're in the Senate, and obviously if you won, that means the Democratic Party helped you, and right now, there are folks like Chuck Schumer saying that you might be the right guy, right? And so, and they're probably going to give you money in the general election. That's what happens with every candidate, not related to Josh, right? So you can't just, take them on 100%, presumably, right? On the other hand, in our experience, Democratic leadership has not been altogether that sage, just to put it mildly, and has not really tried to help the average guy. Certainly wouldn't call him prairie populists, right? So how can the voters know that you're going to vote with them and not with leadership if leadership says, no, Josh, you don't understand, or this or that, and we helped you, and it is what it is, and not in even nefarious way, just, hey, no, it is our judgment based on our experience here that it's gonna help the Democratic Party if you vote this way. And you have a sense that, and the progressives say the opposite, or the populists or the outsiders say the opposite. And look, if you know which way the voters are going, I assume you would go with the voters, right? So, or even if you weren't going to, you would say that, any person would, right? But how can they know now though, which side you would choose in that critical situation?
I think that the best indicator of future success in life is looking at previous success or previous examples. And I think you only need to look at my work in the Iowa legislature, where I have sponsored over 50 bills to work on things like raising a minimum wage, getting private equity out, to drive down affordable housing, everything that I've done on Medicaid reform and making healthcare more affordable and more accessible to individuals. I've put my money where my mouth is on this. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. I'm beholden to no one and no group, no organization. I am doing this. I am someone that has gone through legitimate hardships and legitimate economic struggle and healthcare struggles. I know who I am. I'm not going to certainly change if I get up there to DC. I'm not doing this to get my name in lights or to get wealthy. I am doing this because we once again in Iowa, like we had for 30 years with Senator Tom Harkin, we need a true prairie populist that is going to go up to Washington and is going to fight for the people, fight for Iowa and Iowans, and not just the billionaires and the large corporations, as we're seeing us move into the second Gilded Age.
Yeah. And I will back up that he did introduce a bill banning private equity from buying residential real estate, and that was before the populist plank, not afterwards. So Josh was already there. All right, Iowa State Representative Josh Turk running for Senate in Iowa. We really appreciate you joining us, and
having me. Genuine pleasure to be here. I mean it. I love what you guys are doing, and thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
And please go to Turk for Iowa, Turk, the number 4 Iowa.com, and please join us. We are pushing for change here in Iowa. This really is a generational opportunity. Iowa is going to be the center of the political universe in 2026, and we can take back this Senate seat, and we can not only save the soul of Iowa, but we can save this country.
All right, Josh Turk, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, everybody stay right here. We're going to come back with the second candidate, Nathan Sage, also a populist in Iowa, running for the Senate seat. So stay right here. back on the part 2 of this discussion on the Iowa Senate race. So we just talked to State Rep Josh Turk. We're going to talk to Nathan Sage next. They're both left-wing populists running for that Senate seat in Iowa. I think one of them is going to win that seat. So this is very important. I want you to hear both of them out, and then paying members at tyt.com. If you're a YouTube member, you can also vote as long as you're a member there. And if you want to vote there, we're trying to keep the trolls out. We're trying to get our core community to give us their real opinion on what they think of these folks. They're both great. I talked to them both off air before and I couldn't make up my mind. So it's not a binding vote, but it is a vote that will definitely help us figure out who we should support in this race. And I appreciate you guys being involved in every way. All right, so let's now talk to Nathan Sage. Nathan, how are you?
I'm good, how are you? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. So Nathan, tell us who you are, your background, and give us your elevator pitch for why you should be the Senate candidate for the Democrats in Iowa.
Absolutely. I like to say it like this. I'm a Marine mechanic, sports radio host, former executive director of the Knoxville, Iowa Chamber of Commerce. But more than anything, I'm just a kid that grew up in poverty on the west side of my hometown in Mason City in North Iowa. My dad was a factory worker. My mom was a daycare teacher. I learned at an early age that we didn't have a lot of opportunity. We didn't have a lot of money. Like I had to boil water on my stove when I was 14 years old to be able to give myself a bath because we couldn't afford to get the water heater fixed. So for me, I knew education and the idea of going to college was something out of the realm of possibility for me. And 9/11 happened when I was a junior in high school and just pushed me towards the military. My dad was a Air Force veteran, so I joined the Marine Corps as soon as I could when I was 17 years old, went to boot camp in 18, and went to Iraq for the first time when I was 19. Went to Iraq in 2004 and 2006, got out for a little while, went up to Mason City. I went back to Mason City, was a mechanic, like I said, joined the Army, and I got stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, and sent to Iraq again. And when I came back, I finally realized that I got a GI Bill. I got a way to give myself an education. I did. I got the first person in my family to graduate a 4-year college. Got a degree in journalism, mass communication with a minor in leadership. Went about to Iowa and started working with in radio. Started doing sports, news, and eventually marketing and sales. And that's when I started to work with businesses every day in rural Iowa and understand really quick that businesses in rural Iowa are struggling and trying to keep the doors open, trying to keep the lights on. It's reminded me a lot of my dad when I was a kid trying to just put food on the table. And so for me, realized really quick in that scenario that the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and all of us in the working class are working the road, building the roads, we're teaching the next generation, we're doing all we can to make it in this world, and there ain't craps trickling down to us. And for me, I'm tired of living in this world where we're all lied to and left behind by politicians that are backed by billionaires and corporations and don't care about us. So I'm going to stand up and been fighting my whole life to survive in a world that doesn't want me, and I'm going to fight for people that are fighting every day to make it. So that's who I am in a quick nutshell. I'm here to be a working class voice, be a leader, and also a fighter, someone who knows how to fight. And I think right now that's what we need more than anything.
Okay, so that certainly answers who you are, your background, and what motivates you. Tell us a little bit more about why you think you'd be the best candidate.
Because at the end of the day, I grew up in poverty, and my friends, my family, where I come from, working class, we don't have this chance. We don't have this opportunity. We don't get a lot of time to stand up and fight for what we believe in. And right now I have this opportunity to be a voice for a lot of people that don't have a voice. I get to stand up for a lot of people that feel like they've been lied to and left behind. A lot of people that have left the Democratic Party and gone to the independents and gone to Republicans because they don't feel like there's anybody there actually fighting for them or standing up for them. And at the end of the day, I tend to be very blunt. I tend to be very rough around the edges. I tend to drop a cuss word every once in a while because I think at the end of the day, that's what people need to understand is we're not going to keep doing this, and we're going to stand up and fight for what we believe in. And I think I'm the right politician to do this because Washington, D.C. is made up of 98% generational wealth and only 2% come from the working class. I think we need better representation in Washington so we can fight better and have better leaders.
So you're from the working class, no question about that. You're a Marine mechanic, as you explained. But there's a lot of folks that fit that category that are Republicans and a lot that are Democrats. So what makes you a Democrat?
I'm a Democrat because one simple thing. When I look at the world for what it is and what I've seen through my own eyes, it seems like the Republican Party wants to tear down all the things that we need to make it in this world, especially working class. And Democrats seem to be the type that want to help people. And more than anything in this world, I want to help people because I'm tired of watching my family struggle with affordability, struggle with, I mean, both my parents died of cancer in the state that's #1 in cancer rates. My dad at 54, my mom at 67. I'm tired of watching people fall into drug abuse and alcoholism because they can't afford life and they can't make it anymore. And they get to a point where they break. And I feel like there's so many working class people across Iowa that are screaming for help and they don't have a voice. And it seems like nobody's willing to listen to them. So for me, if I can be that voice, if I can be that representative and bring proper representation to Washington that is not backed by billionaires or corporations or APAC or corporate PAC money, because we don't take any of that. I am here to fight for working class people that are just trying to make it in this world.
All right, so you mentioned those things. I was going to get to them later, but I'll do it now. So no corporate PAC money, that's clear. No APAC money, no Israeli lobby money at all.
Nope.
Okay, and so just like I asked Josh, I'll ask you, what do you think our policy towards Israel should be? Should we continue to fund the state of Israel?
Well, the way I look at it, obviously, I think we need to put pressure on our allies, right? I think we need to back our allies, but at the end of the day, I don't want to see American bombs killing innocents in this world. I'm not okay for American weapons killing innocents in this world. So I think we need to be putting pressure on our administration to work with our allies to make sure that innocent people, women and children are not dying. So that's how I stand, because at the end of the day, I've been to Iraq 3 times, I've been to war, and I'm not okay with the tragedies of wars and watching people die in this world.
So would you cut funding?
I think at the end of the day, I think there's ways you can make it where the weapons that we're giving to have conditions to them, or they're not used to kill innocents and kill people. I think it is up to our administration to implement those conditions to make sure that the innocents in this world are not killed.
Okay, all right. So you sign on to the Populist plank. It's got the 6 policies that, not just Democratic populists, but almost all populists agree on. So of those, what do you prioritize, and what do you think is resonating the best in Iowa?
I think, it's affordability across the board is what is affecting everybody in Iowa. And I think raising wages raising the federal minimum wage, raising a livable wage for people is something. We just talked to food banks just last week, obviously with the issues with SNAP and the government shutdown and how things were going. We asked them, what is the key? What is the thing that needs more than anything to make sure that you go out of business? Because food banks don't want to be in business. They don't want to be in the condition to have to feed people. They want this world to be people be able to take care of themselves. And they said, give us a livable wage. Give people in this world a wage that they can actually make it on. And I think that is the obviously for me, #1. But I also, the cost of healthcare, we got to make healthcare affordable for people in this world. And there's a lot of people that we've talked to after our 99 county tour that are very worried about the cuts to Medicaid. They're worried about this big bullcrap bill. They're worried about, what's going to happen to the rural hospitals and how that's going to affect them when they start closing down in those rural communities. So I think for me, affordability across the board is something that we are seeing, because I tell everybody we've done the 99 county tour that's come out, they've said either 2 things. They're very scared of the world we're in or very angry about the world we're in. And we need to do something, and we need real fighters in Washington, real leaders in Washington.
So you mentioned healthcare there. So tell us what your policy proposals would be on healthcare and what you would fight for if you make it into the Senate on that issue.
Well, I think when I look at it, one thing that I always talk about are these pharmaceutical benefit managers that are literally the leech on the system. It's $518 billion industry, I believe, that is a leech between government and our pharmaceutical companies that dictate the price of our pharmacies, our pharmaceuticals. And then we have an aging population in Iowa. We're one of the oldest populations, and our people, they need their prescriptions to make it in this world and to have a chance to live. So I think making where prescription drugs are not as costly as what it is, and making it affordable for people and getting that leaching system, the pharmaceutical benefit managers that are leeching off our system out of our system, is the way to go to start lowering the cost of especially when it comes to our prescription drugs and healthcare.
So let's go down the list real quick. Obviously, we've got the ACA subsidies doubling now. And the Democrats are trying to prevent that. I assume that you're against them doubling, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Right. So now next is public option. Are you in favor of public option?
That's something I want to learn more about. But at the end of the day, I think we need more options in this world, so I wouldn't be opposed to it.
And then what do you think about universal health care?
I think universal healthcare is a place I'd love to get to. If I could vote to say yes to universal healthcare, I would vote yes. But at the end of the day, I think we need to expand Medicaid and make corrections and affordability now to until we get there. So if we could get to universal healthcare and I could vote to say yes to it, I would vote yes.
Gotcha. And by the way, we talked about pharmacy benefits managers, PBMs, before on the show. Yeah. And they are a huge drain on the system, so that's certainly correct. So Nathan, I think that a normal voter in Iowa would ask, okay, I hear you, brother, and you sound like a real person, no question, right? Among the working class, and you were a mechanic, you worked as a talk show host, etc. Certainly, I could relate to it. But what have you done that would give people confidence that you will fight for these things in the Senate?
I'll say this: when it comes to fighting, that's an interesting thing because for me, it's what my whole life has been. So it's interesting to point to one thing to say, hey, I've done this or that. I'm the only one, I'm the only veteran here. I'm the only one that stood on the yellow footprints of MCRD San Diego and took the oath to support and defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. But I've also worked with people and being the executive director of the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce, different businesses, different entities, different Republican, Democrat, whatever it is, to learn how to communicate and learn how to actually get things done by working together. I mean, when we had RAGBRAI, which is Bike Ride Through Iowa, come through last year. I raised $18,000 to be able to put a concert on, to be able to raise money for our community. And when I was the executive director of the chamber, for those 2 years, I was the community of Knoxville was deemed a thriving community by the state of Iowa. So I think I did a pretty good job, working with people across different political agendas and businesses and learning how to stand up and not sit on the sidelines and watch this world crumble. I think at the end of the day, though, for me, I think being a working class guy that says it how it is, they call me the hairy tattooed fat guy that says it how it is. And if that's what it is, then people can understand that we're not going to sit idly by and I'm going to say the things that need to be said so people understand we're not going to keep doing this. Then that's the way I'm going to fight. Because at the end of the day, we cannot continue to live in a world where the rich get richer, the poor get poor. We lose out on everything that we need to survive in this world, and good people are dying. And they understand really quick that I am not your run-of-the-mill politician. I don't do your political talking points. I don't do run-of-the-mill jokes that aren't very funny. I'm tired of living in a world where everybody it seems good people are struggling, good people are having issues, and we need to make it where they have a chance to actually have real opportunities in this world. And that's what I'm going to do, is bring my voice and bring who I am to Washington, D.C. to actually stand up and fight for us instead of writing strongly worded memos or throwing snowballs from the cheap seats.
Right. So Iowa is, let's hope, a purple state. It has been red recently, but Obama won it. And so it's purple enough. But so then that leads to the question of how do you unite the left and the right without compromising our values?
Well, one thing that Trump won Iowa because he said, I'm going to lower the cost of living. I'm going to make groceries cheaper. I'm going to make life more affordable. That cuts from Republicans, Independents, and Democrats across the board. And we've had Republicans come out to our events and say, Nathan, I didn't know who the hell you were until my Trump-loving Republican son sent me your video and said, this is a guy I would vote for because he looks like he's actually fight for us. We had an event in Council Bluffs the other day where we had a woman who said, Nathan, I've been a Republican since I was 17 years old. And the only reason I'm sitting here in front of you right now is because it seems like nobody is fighting for us. Nobody's representing us, and you look like somebody that actually wants to stand up and fight for us and isn't going to take no for an answer. And so for me, I think at the end of the day, giving people somebody that is actually resonates with them, talks the way that I talk, looks the way that I look, at the end of the day is willing to stand up and fight for them. That's what they want, and they want a little bit more money in their paycheck. We've talked to union members who said, Nathan, put 50 cents more in my paycheck. I can take my family out to a movie theater. I can actually be the member of society that I wanted to be. But right now, in the world we have where rent is jacked up, prices of living is jacked up, groceries are high, we can't do it anymore. And it seems like nobody's listening. So for me, I'm going to keep talking about affordability, talk about the way of life in Iowa, and give them someone that looks like me, that a regular Iowan that it seems like in Iowa and Democratic Party, the working class has kind of been left behind, and give them someone to actually properly represent them is what I'm trying to do, and stand up and not be what we saw recently where we have people bending the knee or being cowards.
So would you have voted with the Republicans on the continuing resolution like the 8 Democrats did?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Because I think at the end of the day, why did we do the government shutdown to begin with? We drew a line in the sand, right? And we said, we're not going to do this. We need to make life more affordable for people. We need to extend the ACA tax credits. And then we have a momentum happen on Tuesday night where the election is like, okay, obviously what we're doing is right. People care about working class issues. They care about affordability. That's what cuts across everything. And then out of nowhere, we're just going to take the wind out of our sails and we're going to kick the can down the road another mile or whatever. And it doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, we're going to have to fight anyway. We're going to have to stand up. And it doesn't seem, what it seems like to me, someone from the military, I got told this all the time, piss poor planning equals piss poor performance. And that is a reflection on piss poor leadership. And Chuck Schumer and the leaders there seem to be more about caving and bending the knee than standing up for the Americans they're supposed to represent. So I'm not okay with it.
So, some would say, and I frame it that way because I wouldn't say it. Oftentimes Fox will use that as a cover for what they would say, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. But it's important, and it's a legitimate point. Some would say, yeah, but Nathan, you gotta work with the party in some way, right? And so if you're pissing off leadership, then they might not be prone to let you introduce bills, et cetera. So how do you thread that needle?
I think at the end of the day, like we can't keep doing the same thing over and expect a different result. We can't keep following the same leaderships that led us nowhere. We've been nothing but losing for the past, 10 years, 20 years. It seems like the Democratic Party's lost all a favorability. They don't have any backbone, no spine at all. And so for me, if you have a problem with me standing up for the people that I'm representing and doing what the people of Iowa are asking me to do, then I don't care. We have to fight for Iowans. We have to fight for the people that I'm representing. If not, I'm not going to be there. And I understand that some people have to walk a certain line, but I think Iowans want someone with a backbone. Iowans want someone that's going to stand up and go, no, this is not okay. We have to extend these ACA tax credits, because if we don't do that, our healthcare premiums are going to double. We are not going to be able to afford this, and we need to make it where we can actually afford healthcare. And I'm tired of the same empty promises. And I know so many Iowans are of the same empty promise. We're going to get there. We're going to fight. This is going to look good for us. Well, you know what? It hasn't done it. What have we done? I said it earlier. We keep losing. We can't do the same playbook anymore. We have to put our foot in the sand and say, you know what? We're Democrats. We're here to fight. We're here to fight for people that are fighting every day to survive. And we shouldn't be bending the knee, especially when we feel like we finally have momentum.
Yeah. So for voters who are voting based on who is more likely to win, they see someone that has not worked in politics before, and by the way, the other problem with that is that generally speaking, mainstream media disfavors candidates like you, and so then it's harder to get coverage, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you get past those hurdles and prove to people that you're more likely to win?
We do what we've already been doing, right? For me, it's continuing to represent people and continue to talk and listen to people. We did this 99 county tour. It's about going out and listening to the people in Iowa. At the end of the day, DC insiders, backdoor deals are not going to win Iowa. It's going to be talking to Iowans. Anybody knows who's come here for the caucus in Iowa, you got to sit on their front porch and you got to talk to Iowans, and you got to be able to let them see you, hear you, breathe, and let you, ask questions and answer those questions. You got to be a real boy, right? And one thing that we get taught every single place we go, someone shakes my hand and goes, there's other candidates, but you're real. And I'm like, well, this is all that I know how to be. And I think that's what we need more than anything. And honestly, for me, I can only control what I can control. If media doesn't want to put me on there on TV because I'm a little rough around the edges, or I might cuss here and there, at the end of the day, that doesn't bother me. What it bothers me is the representation we don't have in Washington, the representation we don't have for Iowans. I am here simply because we don't have representation in Iowa. I am here to fight for the people that I am supposed to represent. And the way that I'm supposed to represent them is to not be the typical run-of-the-mill, because we're tired of it. We've had the same slicked back-haired politicians come to our neighborhoods, say the same thing, and do their press, have cameras in the background, taking pictures of handing out food to people. At the end of the day, they still take money and go. They don't fight for us. They don't, represent us. And so for me, I'm going to continue to do what I can do. Be any podcast, any TV show, any news station, anything I can get on, I'm going to be on, getting my message out. But more than anything, I'm going to be out in Iowa like I have been. Since August 1st, we've done over 10,000 miles, 250 hours in the car, and over 140 events. Nobody else compares to me right now. I am out there trying to talk to everybody, because that is what important to Iowans, is to understand that I am here to fight for them.
All right, one last question for you. Do you have a political mentor or hero that you look up to? And it doesn't have to be political either. Any kind of mentor or hero that you think, well, that's a shining model right there.
That is a hard question. I don't know. For me, probably my mom. Passed away 3 years ago to cancer. Did everything she could to raise my brother and sister. I think at the end of the day, common sense and the way she always raised, and being a tough woman and not backing down and not taking no for an answer, made me who I am. She was out in boot camp when I graduated. She's always been that person for me. So, that's where I get a lot of my motivation, is somebody like her who never had money, struggled all her life, did everything she could for her family. Like, that's who I am. That's what I was raised to be. And I think my mom would be very proud that I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm not bending the knee to anybody. I am standing up for what I believe in. I think at the end of the day, she's my hero.
All right, Nathan, what's your website so people can go to?
SageForSenate.com. Check us out. You can also check us out on social media as well, Sage for Iowa. But SageForSenate.com is the place to be to learn more about me.
All right, Nathan Sage running for Senate in Iowa on the Democratic primary. Thank you so much for joining us, Nathan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, guys, now go ahead and vote now. Go to TYT.com. You got Nathan Sage and you got Representative Josh Turk, both from Iowa. You've just heard them both. They're both populists. They're both on the left there, and they both say that they want to fight for you. It's a tough choice. If it was easy, I'd have done it already. So TYT.com for paying members, again, just to keep the trolls on, make sure it's the core community. So we appreciate you guys, and we'll keep that poll up for a couple of days, give people a chance to view this, and then come back and talk to you guys about it. All right, thank you for everybody for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll see you tomorrow.